while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contract's tossed and they're gone with the tide. The heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this dreck and treat you, right? But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. Now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes, because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards.
Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind, like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They can stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple Hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something title, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blinded idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Born in the shadows of graves, dug for the victims of war or the bodies of negligent poverty, labeled as either essential or brave. We had to watch them lay old Lady Liberty down on the lathe, shave all her salient features away. 'Cause we like our women condemned, we like our women contained, we like our platitudes flaccid and vague, and we like to deify people objectively late for the Hague. We like our senators boneless, because we've only elected the spineless, who all lack backbone and possibly teeth, because they don't bite back and they don't speak up. They resign like sheep into silence. I don't have much hope when the meek all inherit the planet, because they fumbled the House and the Senate and handed the reins to the people they spent 4 years all proclaiming as baseless, corrupted upholders of bigotry, leeching our taxes like bandits. When all of our leaders are wearing that standard. All of them work for the global purveyor of violence, pollution, genocide, bias, fascism, child starvation through sanction, cultural cleansing, and propaganda. Black Mariah, White Miranda, Streets Crescendo, Fascist Answer. Any donation you give them is feeding the cancer. Bloating their egos so they can come dangle the carrot, promise you $2,000 and hold it for ransom. Like we should fall all over ourselves when the squad tweets. We should lick the squad's boots, kiss the squad's feet. They ask, what would the money we promised you months ago actually mean? What would a one-time check to pay part of your rent and allow you to eat for a week mean to you and your family of 3? Tell us you need it. Tell us you want it so bad. We can't hear you. Tell us how thankful you are for the squad, 'cause we're all that you have. Tell us how grateful you are that we watered a bill down to please the Republicans, knowing their votes weren't needed to see that it passed. That's called unity. When your overlords can get along peacefully and agree on the most cost-effective way to starve American families to death, discreetly kill off the disabled, and slaughter people of color with impunity in broad daylight, that is what they mean by unity. That's what they want us to be fucking thankful for.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watch them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're
Have just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. You know, the issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Do the thing.
I did the thing. You just didn't hear it because I didn't have that one button pressed to you. They all heard it, though. It is Wednesday.
Okay.
What up, fam? John the Accord Lord wants to ask if they can borrow a pencil.
No.
No?
No.
Yeah. You gotta bring your own crap. You gotta bring your own.
Right.
Right. Oh. Yeah, or you gotta use like the communal, really terrible giant pencil that some of those teachers keep just for you. You know? The one where you gotta like write like this. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
comical giant pencil.
Preschoolers, that's not an issue for me. So
right. Yeah, you can just give them a crayon.
Time that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I'm not in a position where they would need to ask for pencils for that reason. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But glad people are
to them or
glad people are trying to stay focused. Glad they're doing that. You know, there will be pop quizzes at the end of the segments. Right.
Yeah, but we will, we will read your
we read your shit.
Comments in the chat.
Isn't that fun?
If we like it. So you don't have to give us a super chat. Funny enough, we were talking about that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you do want to give a super chat, you can put !donate or go down there in the chat to the description and find that Ko-fi link. You know, it pops right up on our little screens here, you know. Get around that demonetization system as always, but you know, we brought stories like we do every week.
We did.
So you brought some fun ones.
Well, you brought the first one.
Yeah.
And I held on to it, which kind of makes sense given. Is it next? Yeah, next week is going to be the anniversary of Malcolm X's birth. You gave me this Substack article from Sam Husseini that he wrote over a year ago regarding Zionism. So I thought it would be kind of appropriate read, giving one, Black History Month, so I can do what I want. Number two, it's Malcolm X, so why not? But just kind of, and you said to me that you're kind of interested to see what Sam Hussein had to say about this. So, well, in relation to what Malcolm X said. So, so that will be the first segment that I will share with you all, and then later on tonight we are going to talk about the Super Bowl. I didn't watch. I'm still on my NFL is bullshit. NFL is a modern day slave plantation. I'm still on banning it, well, boycotting it after what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Although I've said this, like, he is called the NFL racist, but yet he will still wants to work for them, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. But regardless, I have no reason to watch the NFL anymore like I used to. Used to watch the Super Bowl religiously up until 2016. But there was an ad that kind of got the rounds on Twitter featuring Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg, which you didn't necessarily know from maybe the messaging, but it was sponsored from a Zionist lobby. So we are going to talk about that, especially regarding those two and how, you know, there's a history of this, which we kind of talked about in different stories before about, you know, the underpinnings of Zionism in this country. And it's not always the lobby. Well, it's not the lobbyists you're necessarily thinking of. It's just a lot of these corporate billionaires are often more problematic, if anything else, who are working on behalf of the Israeli lobby. But we're going to get into that later. and I brought an extra story. Not going to show it here, but we're again Super Bowl. We're going to talk about
for real.
Kendrick
Damn,
Lamar,
it must be true.
And the protester who held up the Sudanese / Palestinian flag during the halftime show, which I guess no one saw because God forbid that the mainstream media should see that kind of protest.
Yeah.
Which is funny because a lot of liberals are like, oh, no one's protesting now that Trump is. Well, no one's talking about that. That was a protest. So you're not mentioning that shit. But we are. Again, we're going to mention a couple of people underlying this that mainstream media is not going to tell you, but we have. So we're going to go do a little flashback for y'all. That's the beauty of now doing this for close to 3 years. We can actually start going back to things that we have said, or in this case, you said.
Yeah.
Regarding certain issues, how they kind of piecing together that no one's going to tell you about independent media. So we'll share that much later. So stick around for that. And then what did you bring tonight?
Well, I've been finding it important to, I feel a lot of people stand up for Palestine, but do very little to actually bring Palestinian voices. So I'll be the one. I'll take the lane. Thank you. But I brought some stories from Gaza. That go back.
Make this like
a thing.
Might as well make this a series.
Luckily, the Electronic Intifada does that frequently for me, so you should go follow them if you've not already. But I brought some heartbreaking stories from Gaza that literally made me cry while I was reading them. Hopefully, it won't happen again. But I think they're important to hear. And I also brought some terrible news from our country. We're going to talk about some oligarchs being in bed with the Pentagon. Who would have thought? And what that might mean for the future of this country. So, especially when it involves domes and nuclear deterrence. So, figured we'd talk about Elon's dome. Why not? But yeah, that's what I brought. So should be good. But as always, talking about these things is why we're demonetized. So you can scan this QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. It's in the description below. And if you're in the live chat, you can put !donate and get a link to the Ko-fi, which, lovely little super chat can come up on your screen. Look at this. Look at the Hall of Fame. Look at all you peoples. We appreciate every one of yous. You went to websites like our Cash App, our Ko-fi, our PayPal, our Substack, and you've been doing the business. So it's been nice. But
yeah.
Oh, you ready for our first one?
We've really appreciated. Yeah, we've really appreciated everyone who's been donating. And just to be as transparent with you, we're trying to raise money to help some of our colleagues at INN, just mostly for new tech for certain people who are using old tech that we want to help them upgrade so they're able to continue producing better content, but of better quality. Obviously, that costs a lot of money, so we want to help a few of our colleagues out who need that financial support.
We're also trying to cover our just general overhead. It costs some money to put our faces on this screen every week for you guys, as well as the rest of the people on INN. Restream and Canva and all that stuff costs a little bit per year, so we're trying to get that out of the way. So if you could help donate to us, we appreciate it, and you'll see more stuff like this. So, all right, let's get to your first one. Go do the thing. There we go.
Here we go,
Mr. Malcolm.
So like I said earlier, you brought this story to me over a week ago, and I held it. I thought it was a very interesting article. This was written by Sam Husseini over a year ago. So I thought it was kind of, one is Black History Month, so great to, feature some Black voices, regarding this time of year, obviously, but also, we've talked about Malcolm X before in terms of how he felt about Zionism. So it was interesting to kind of read, what Sam was able to put together in light of, and that this year I checked is going to be the 100 years of his birth, which will be next week.
Okay.
So kind of appropriate, I think.
I'm sure the FBI will make a tweet about it, even though they were involved in his unaliving.
Right.
But
but let's see what Malcolm, by way of Sam, had to say.
Good old Sam Husseini.
Move. So
yeah.
So he titles The Prophecies of Malcolm X, Zionism, a New Kind of Colonialism. Decades after his martyrdom and nearing the 100th anniversary of his birth, Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabaz's words still pierce through the deceptions of empire. So Sam writes, I doubt it's a coincidence that Malcolm, born 99 years ago this year and assassinated on February 21st, 1965, was a model for the martyred Palestinian writer Rafat Al-Ayir. And we read, I think over a year ago, when he passed, I think one of the last things that Rafat wrote about was not knowing about Malcolm too much later in his academic career, and was inspired by him in terms of his words and his actions towards, like in what he was trying to do for in terms of Black power here, but also his support for Palestine as well. So if you want to check that out, you can definitely go back in our playlist and read and listen or watch the segment that we did when Rafat was martyred. But anyway, indeed, at a talk in 2012, Al-Ayir would recall his introduction to Malcolm. I was teaching a course, and there was an amazing passage about this man of whom I had never heard before. The passage was so eloquent, so articulate, so amazing that it pulled me into this personality, this area of knowledge that I, again, never knew before. Malcolm X has had, since then, an amazing influence on my life to the extent that I now name him as my #1 role model. Indeed, much of Malcolm's analysis holds up decades later as Israel slaughters Palestinians daily. Little known, Malcolm wrote in the Egyptian Gazette in 1964, the Israeli Zionists are convinced they have successfully camouflaged their new kind of colonialism. The modern 20th century weapon of neo-imperialism is dollarism. The Zionists have mastered the science of dollarism, the ability to come posing as a friend and benefactor, bearing gifts and all other forms of economic aid and offers of technical assistance. We've talked about this quite a bit, especially given capitalism, their involvement in Africa in particular. Plus the power and influence of Zionist Israel. Yes, go ahead.
Cash rules everything around me. Get the money.
I mean, pretty much. So,
thus, the power and influence of Zionist Israel in many of the newly independent, quote-unquote, African nations has fast become even more unshakable than that of the 18th century European colonialists. And this new kind of Zionist colonialism differs only in form and method, but never in motive or objective. In the US, we have a prevalence of putting a black face on US empire, as with Linda Thomas Greenfield, who is mentored by Madeleine Albright and just vetoed the third UN resolution for a ceasefire. Actually, I did not know that. Funny how that didn't come up. That the ambassador to the UN was mentored by the devil herself. Funny that wasn't mentioned at all. Like, I actually did not know this until reading this. So how interesting that people are like, oh, she's a Black woman, so more diversity, but she's still, and we said this, but I didn't know to the extent until, reading this. I was like, it just reminds me of Anna from TYT, who also did that interview with Madeleine Albright and kind of justified it as an interview. So, but anyway, I digress. Malcolm said years ago, they have a new gimmick every year. They're going to take one of their boys, Black boys, and put him in the cabinet so he can walk around Washington with a cigar, fire on one end, and fool on the other end. And because his immediate personal problem will have been solved, he will be the one to tell our people, look at how much progress we're making. I'm in Washington, D.C. I can have tea in the White House. I'm your spokesman. I'm your leader. While our people are still living in Harlem in the slums, still receiving the worst form of education. The prospects of freedom in 1965 at the Militant Labor Union, New York City, January 7th, 1965. So basically, a lot of what Sam is referencing here is actual quotes and citations from what Malcolm said from various meetings, documents, and lectures.
Letters and lectures. And
yeah.
All that fun stuff.
We now have many putting out rhetoric or engaging in pro-former actions, but not taking action to stop the Israeli slaughter, finding ways to confront and stop the U.S. and Israeli criminals. But how many sitting here right now feel that they could truly identify with a struggle that was designed to eliminate the basic causes that create the conditions that exist? Not very many. They can jive, but when it comes to identifying yourself with a struggle that is not endorsed by the power structure, that is not acceptable, that the ground rules are not laid down by the society in which you live, in which you are struggling against, you can't identify with that, you step back. Oh, God. Like, Kendrick much?
Well, there's a few of them. How's that go? Skin poking something?
I think, right. Again, we're gonna talk about Kendrick much later, but but this is
what's that Hampton quote? Replacing it with black capitalism isn't the answer. That sort of thing.
Right. Malcolm applied dollarism to the U.S. as well, as lots of groups on many issues are often more concerned about funding and paying off mortgages than much else. It's easy to become a satellite today without even realizing it. This country can seduce God. Yes, it has that seductive power of economic dollarism. When they drop those dollars on you, you'll fold, though. Yep.
Yeah, especially when you haven't had nothing for so long. Like, that Gucci starts to look good. Like, go ahead.
Beginning in October, so of over a year ago.
Okay.
No, actually, over a year ago. I focused on pushing for a country to invoke the Genocide Convention at the International Court of Justice. It was moving to me how activists and people who were concerned, who really wanted to change things, came forward to help make that happen. And I was disgusted by how some legal experts who were allegedly critical of Israel and media outlets who pretended to want it to stop would ignore or dismiss the proposal. So I've been reminded of this from Malcolm. We need to expand the civil rights struggle to a higher level, to the level of human rights. Actually, and I know Savvy has said this, it's not, the idea of rights is someone has to define what they are. So the question is who? So really a lot of the things that Malcolm and anyone else who are making advocate, as far as justice, is really a necessity versus a right. Like, you have it on the basis that you're human, not dictated by, in our case, what a few rich white men said in relation to our Constitution and our Bill of Rights or whatever document you can think of. But really, it should be the idea of a necessity versus. But anyway,
when did Sam write this?
Whenever you are,
when did Sam write this? Like a year ago?
last February, a year ago, almost a year ago today.
Makes sense.
Whenever you are in a civil rights struggle, whether you know it or not, you are confining yourself to the jurisdiction of Uncle Sam. The Negro problem is never brought before the UN. This is part of the conspiracy. This old, tricky, blue-eyed liberal who's supposed to be your and my friend, supposed to be in our corner, supposed to be subsidizing our struggle, and supposed to be acting in the capacity of an advisor, never tells you anything about human rights, which is one of his famous speeches, the ballot or the bullet. Among other things, Malcolm was a media critic. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Remarkable, relevant as U.S. media focus or outright fabricate the suffering of some Israelis, many of them military, while marginalizing the literal genocide of Palestinians, or even the imagined hurt of pro-Israeli activists trying to silence people trying to stop a genocide. Video complication. I guess that was link left. And there's this just before Malcolm's old martyrdom. While I was traveling, I had a chance to speak in Cairo, or rather Alexandria, with Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser for about an hour and a half. He's a very brilliant man, and I can see why they're so afraid of him. And they are afraid of him. They know he can cut off their oil. I mean, we said it. Like, a lot of the reason why there are issues in the Middle East now is basically due to the oil that is off the coast of Gaza. So Malcolm was saying this over 60 years ago. So, I mean, and actually the only thing power respects is power. This is a society whose government doesn't hesitate to inflict the most brutal form of punishment and oppression upon dark-skinned people all over the world. To wit, right now, what's going on in and around Saigon and Hanoi and in the Congo and elsewhere.
Yeah.
They are violent when their interests are at stake.
Yeah.
But all of that violence that they display at the international level, when you and I just want a little bit of freedom, we're supposed to be nonviolent. They're violent. They're violent in Korea. They're violent in Germany. They're violent in the South Pacific. They're violent in Cuba. They're violent wherever they go. But when it comes time for you and me to protect ourselves against lynchings, they tell us to be nonviolent.
Yeah.
On the Congo. And they're able to take these hired killers, put them in American planes with American bombs, and drop them on African villages, blowing to bits black men, black women, black children, black babies, and you black people sitting over there cool like it doesn't even involve you. You're a fool. FBAs, where you at? This FBA talking to you. Again, I digress. And with the press, they feed these statistics to the public, primarily the white public, because there are some well-meaning persons in the white public as well as bad-meaning persons in the white public. And whatever the government is going to do, it always wants the public on its side. So they use the press to create images. The last message addressed the Afro-Caribbean Broadcasting Company, Detroit, Michigan, February 14th, 1965, the night his home was firebombed and a week before his assassination.
Yep.
So
makes sense to me.
So
tell me where the lies are in the 1960s. Tell me we got any better. You know?
Right.
So you know, makes me look behind my back a lot more.
When was this written?
Year
Sam
ago.
Husseini wrote this article a year ago.
Yeah.
So
all the Malcolm stuff though, 60s, 70s, you know. Yeah.
So
back when it was right in front of Americans' faces, which, you know, history tends to come back around again. So hopefully, you know, like maybe we just need hippies with flowers again. Maybe that'll get people to listen. I don't know. You know?
But you know what? I don't think that's gonna work in the same way now.
No.
Because
they'll just can
wised up,
escalate.
and
Right.
right. And given, and we talked about this, how militarized our police are. And as Malcolm X said, when it comes to them and violence, it's fine for them to do it. But when we want to arm ourselves, then they say, well, you can't. So,
Yes.
and they will use that and they will exploit that to their advantage. And we've seen that. And given right now that Trump will be more than willing, as I keep saying, Trump is benefiting from the gifts that Obama and Biden left him in terms of funding the police. Because now, if you're looking to protest, they will beat your ass to a pulp, and they will will not show you any remorse for that. So, so it's not going to work in that same way anymore. And I think, especially since we're so divided, even among Black people, we can't even agree on a lot of shit. And I think a lot of it is because we don't know ourselves, or we don't know our history that well, that we're able to reflect on, look and see what someone like Malcolm X was saying back then. But I think right now, especially the danger of social media, is that people are feeding off the ignorance of people, because we're not necessarily taught this or shown this. So you say the right thing, people are going to believe you, which may not often be correct, but you're going to end up yelling and being argumentative against your neighbor versus the people who are in power.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's, again, shout out to Sam for writing this, but again, and as he said, he titled it The Prophecies of Malcolm X. Like, everything that he said has come to pass multiple times. And we even seen this, this week, in terms of the Super Bowl. Again, we'll get into that story at the end of the show.
Am I going to tell my audience that they shouldn't be ready? Get those trigger fingers worked? You know what I'm saying? Like, work those heavy bags. Make sure you know what you're doing in case stuff decides to not go our way. Like, I think Malcolm would definitely be in agreement there. Although they tried to soften him in his later years, but I still think he felt that way. So,
yeah,
and you see that with like lots of Second Amendment movements in your community that try to protect those of your community. Like, it's tough and it's a fine line to walk, but I think it's doable. But anyway, anything else you wanted to
add? No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like we're kind of broken records at this point. I feel this is kind of some,
people don't mind that.
I feel like we say this every week.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I think especially for our audience, I think they're more up on these issues now, probably better than anyone else. But
yep,
this is why, as we did, we produced, shout out to Joe, one of our former members. He produced a video called Listen to Our Leaders. I think it was a collaborative effort, but Joe did a huge job in editing that clip. But we mentioned, this is why we need to look at history, but this is why I would argue you need to look at history on your own time and in your own terms. They're not going to teach you all this shit.
No.
And I'm saying that as a teacher. They're not going to teach you this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're surely not going to teach you about Malcolm X unless maybe in certain schools and maybe in a certain class. But you're not going to even, in that, you're not even going to get to the nitty gritty of what Malcolm X was even saying, even in this.
Yeah.
So this is why it's important to watch independent media, to be exposed to the things that mainstream media is not going to necessarily show you. Now, granted, I'm sure next week, given that will be the anniversary of both his birth and assassination, I'm sure we're probably going to hear a lot of stuff regarding Malcolm X, possibly, but not to the degree of what he was challenging the establishment for. So be wary of that. But save this clip so you can be able to refer to this, when they do put out like the whitewash version of Malcolm X, if they
they will
somehow decide. Well, that is even if they do, because Malcolm was way too radical, according to many folks, to even talk about.
A whole lot of the peoples. So, but yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason he isn't with us, So,
right. And that's one of the reasons why we're demonetized, because YouTube doesn't like us talking about this stuff. But that's okay. We appreciate our help mostly comes from you, pretty much. So if you want to help us financially, you can feel free to scan the QR code that you see on your screen if you have a smartphone, or you can type in the link that you see at the bottom of that screen there at that Ko-fi link. Or if you're in YouTube and you just forget, you can type in !donate, all one word. The link will pop up in the chat, and you can go on the link and give as little as $1. Any bit helps to help us pay the bills around here, as well as supporting our colleagues in the network as well. As we say every week, please, like we know times are hard. Make sure you're taking care of your families, your communities, yourselves before you give to us. But anything you're able to support us with financially, we will appreciate it. That being said, for those of you who want to do the free option, and probably the one that we prefer more, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and also check to make sure that you are subscribed, because YouTube at times tends to kick off people from our channel, again, because they hate us. Please share content to fight the suppression that we do get on YouTube. And make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think regarding what Malcolm X said. Do you agree? Do you feel a lot of what he said is applicable now, even though he mentioned a lot of this stuff over 50 years ago? And help us get to free K. We're getting there. We're very appreciative of how we've been slowly growing. And thank you for watching.
Yeah. Cool. All right. To the chats. If you're not a lizard person over on Rumble, make sure to let us know by using those opposable thumbs, get in that chat. Hopefully Thiel hasn't mutated you too much. All right, YouTube chats up here. Cool. I saw one from Accord Lord said Reef 100 points, learn your area, learn who need immediate attention, even in the event of a collapse. Yep. Dude, field medicine, totally a thing. Food production, lots of stuff people need to be putting in their tool belts. So, as things head forward. But what was the other thing I saw? I think it was KYE. Did y'all hit the like button? Per the first law of the Imperium?
The Emperor demands loyalty.
Something like that. What else you got? KYE says hippies were MK Ultra. Kinda. There's definitely some stuff about the CIA and the whole, peace, love movement, all that fun stuff. It's all connected. They try to exploit every movement possible.
Desert Mecca said, I wish I had an easy last name like Malcolm's. His government name was Little.
Yeah.
So, that name was just in terms of his pilgrimage to Mecca, like in his later years, as he was a member of Islam. So, so obviously he went to Mecca. Going after. Go ahead.
I put up a thing from people were asking that they had said they had never seen Sam before until like just now, especially with what happened at the White House press room. So if you've been following the Indie Media Awards, you would have already known. So go give that a shout. He is an Indie Media Award honoree. So if you not, go look through those. There's some good people over there. Good sources in that. So Mantis saying they don't have a tool belt, but they do have a toolbox. So, I mean, whatever works, man. You know, like, I feel like the belt gives you a little easier access, but, so, KYE says, scrolls, damn it, lizard people is derogatory to our kind. Well, you know, Natalie Williams says that's the trouble with triples. People got some nerds in this chat. Look at you. Look at you being nerds.
Rat shit, bat shit, dirty old twat. 69 assholes tied in a knot. Hooray! Lizard shit, fuck!
Yay! Yay! Lizard shit. All right. Let's get to our next story. So,
which you mentioned made you cry.
Yes, it did. It did make me cry. Real men do that.
You should make this a series, to be honest with you.
What,
like,
the stories that make Reef cry series? Yeah, I mean, I think
sure.
The stories from Gaza.
Sure.
I mean, luckily, this is from the Electric Intifada, which they actually showcase Palestinian writers. But, you know, I find it important to actually bring the voices of the people that we care about. So, and I felt like since our stories last week about food in Gaza, go check that out if you've not already. I felt like these were in the similar, like, context, but this is from Mahamadi from the Intifada, and Hope in the Shape of a Tomato is the name of the title. Again, links to our articles are always down in the description. But they write, I live with my sister Haneen in a small tent on the outskirts of Al-Zawaida near Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip. Before the ceasefire, trying to survive the constant Israeli attacks consumed all our time. Hunger made those days pass with slow, unbearable pain. Haneen, 26, is a mother to 2 children, Riyadh 5 and Imad 3. She carries the weight of the world on her shoulders while trying to hide her pain behind a smile that fools no one. Every morning I wake up to the sound of Riyadh trying to craft a new toy from sticks and stones. I'll make a tomato tree, and we'll eat from it every day, he says with a voice full of hope. Imad sits behind him, clapping enthusiastically as if cheering his brother on to turn the dream into reality. One day in November, we all sat inside our tent trying to share what little food we had left, a small piece of bread and a bit of olive oil. Imad, too young to grasp the meaning of hunger, stared at the tiny plate in front of him and then at his mother as if asking why there wasn't more. Riyadh, with his innocent curiosity, looked at me and asked, why can't we eat until we're full? I had no answer. Suddenly, Haneen stood up and left the tent. I knew she was going to look for something, anything, to feed her children. After a while, she returned, holding a small, withered tomato in her hand. She looked at us with a forced smile and said, I found this in the nearby field. We'll add it to our dinner. She sat on the ground, placed the tomato on a piece of stale bread, and began cutting it with extreme care. She treated the tomato as if it were the most precious thing she had. The children gathered around her, their eyes shining with excitement. She divided the tomato slices among us. Riyadh took a small piece and looked at it cautiously before asking, Mama, if I eat it slowly, will it grow bigger? Haneen laughed softly and replied, yes, Riyadh, if you eat it with love, it will feel like it's growing. Imad ate his slice of the tomato carefully, as if were afraid it would vanish too quickly. I noticed the exhaustion in my sister's eyes and the worry for her children's future. I realized hunger wasn't the only weight on her shoulders. After we finished eating, Riyadh went outside the tent and started collecting stones and sticks to craft his tomato tree. Imad sat beside him, helping arrange the tomato fruits made of small rocks. That night, after the children had fallen asleep, I sat with Haneen outside the tent. The moon illuminated the empty field in front of us. I asked her how she found the strength to keep going. She answered quietly, I have no choice. Riyadh and Imad think the tomato I brought today was a miracle, and I want to believe that too. They don't understand that tomorrow night might bring nothing. I had no words to offer her. I just sat beside her, watching the field and wondering if more miracles awaited us. In the days that followed, Riyadh and Ahmad began treating the field outside the tent as if it were a magical farm. They buried seeds that found unsuitable for eating, saying, when the tomato tree grows, the food will return, and so will Baba. Their father, Mahmoud Samour, is a teacher at Al-Aqsa University. The Israeli military detained him in November when the family tried to move to the south for safety. He remains a captive in Israeli detention. I watched Haneen, realizing how her children's simple dream had turned into something resembling faith for her. Every day she went out with the boys, watering the ground with the little water we had, and whispering a quiet prayer no one else could hear. Maybe the earth will bloom one day. Maybe. But I knew that Haneen wasn't just watering the earth. She was nurturing hope in her children's hearts, a hope that tomorrow might be less cruel, and that life, despite everything, could be reborn from a single tomato. God's Care Bear. Oof.
This is why I teach young kids.
Yeah.
They are not jaded yet. Everything, and it just reminds me, yeah, it's obviously it sucks if young children especially go through tragedy and pain. But I don't think we give young children credit for how resilient they can be and how innocent they can be in terms of they're not entirely jaded to the world yet, which is why it pains me when children unnecessarily go through that kind of pain to the point where they're so, I'm not sure the word, but so, jaded early that it kills me. But it's still the idea of, for them, there's everything is possible. And that's the type of thinking that I want to ultimately instill in my kids, because literally for them, they can be anything. They can do anything.
Yeah.
And my job is to help curate that possibility for them. My job is not to crush their dreams. If anything, my job is to cultivate that.
Yeah.
So if they believe that a tomato will grow from that ground, despite, and we know the reality, that earth is so polluted that nothing will probably grow. If not, it's not going to be good. But I'm not going to tell those kids that.
I wanted to add to this.
Belief,
they were talking about their water supply and that they were actually watering this like fake garden. Like, I think that that's even more when you realize that their water is like they're not getting any
polluted.
Well, not just yes,
or not
right, or like none at all. But this is in the West Bank, so it's slightly different, but very similar. But I think it gives some context to that.
I can't hear it.
Oh, how about I fix that? How about I do that? And action.
I can't wash my hair because of the Israeli occupation. All of our tanks are out of water. We only get water every 15 to 20 days. Hence the tanks. And if you're out of luck until the next refill. These water tanks are a staple on Palestinian houses in the West Bank to combat the chronic water shortage. But the problem isn't that there's not enough water. The problem is even our water sources are under occupation, and it's all controlled by the Israeli government and private Israeli corporations, who allot Palestinians less water than the World Health Organization recommends. But why? What are they doing with all our water? Funneling it into neighboring illegal settlements, where Israelis have a continuous supply of water and consume more than double their Palestinian neighbors. And to top it off, the Israeli company that supplies Palestinians in Bethlehem and Hebron with 70% of our water is reducing that amount even more. I can't wash my hair because of the Israeli occupation. All of our tanks
Pause.
are out of...
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that's makes it even more like that they're using that water to like have this garden for the children, I find like heartbreaking to say the least, you know, but
yeah,
also inspiring at the same time, you know? So, but in the same vein, this story, again from the Electronic Intifada, this time from Raja Altana, both of these writers in Gaza, so appreciate the work they are doing. But they write, in a small tent on the outskirts of Al-Mawasi in Khan Yunis, my sister Yara lives with her 2 children, Yasmin and Muhammad. Before Israel's genocidal assault, my sister and her family lived with me and mine in a modest home in Gaza City. Yara cared for her 2 children, while her husband, Ibrahim, worked in the market selling water for her 2 children. Selling water to earn money for the family. I worked as a teacher at a nearby school. Our lives were simple, but filled with love and peace. We were displaced at the beginning of the Israeli attacks in October when our home became unsafe under Israelis' relentless, indiscriminate bombing. We fled on foot, carrying only what we could. After a long journey fraught with...
Pause right there.
Yes.
So, notice how you said displaced at the beginning.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing a lot of folks online and people that I know who are like, you know, with Trump's recent thing of displacing them, though, people are like, oh, well, look at how you voted. Like, look what Biden, look at what Trump is doing now. Bitches, this has been happening since
for
October.
A minute. Yeah.
And that was happening under Biden.
And then happening way before then, on top of that.
So, right. So it's just another example of just like Trump bad, Trump boogeyman, that they want to focus on that, when the reality is they've been displaced, you know, since really the turn of the since 1948, but, you know, but more especially like within the last decade, and more particularly within the last year, where people in northern Gaza had to go to the south in Rafah. Like, that was in the news not so long ago, and a lot of these folks have already forgotten that.
Well, and think about, in our last story, they fled to south like they were told to do.
Right.
The father was still detained because he worked at Alaska. Right? Like, so, like, it is more than, you know, more than one way to be dangerous to travel in that area. So,
right.
Anyway, after a long journey fraught with danger, hunger, and fear, we found refuge in a small tent on the outskirts of Khan Yunis. Muhammad, my 4-year-old nephew, has autism. He seemed to live in a world entirely his own. For him, life revolved around one thing: a red apple. Muhammad didn't fully understand the chaos around him, nor did he care. Apples were his sanctuary. He loved the texture, the color, scent, and the way they spun between his small fingers. They weren't just apples to him. They were his safe haven in a world full of fear and disorder. But apples became rare during genocide. The last apple my sister had managed to get in weeks, she gave to Muhammad. He refused to eat it, insisting instead on keeping it close. The apple became dried out, cracked, and lost its vibrant red color, but to Muhammad, it remained his most precious treasure. Muhammad, can you give Mama the apple? Yar asked him one evening as he clutched it tightly. He shook his head firmly, silently telling her, don't take my world away. Yara didn't push further. That particular night, a cold December evening, with the sounds of bombs tearing through the sky, something remarkable happened. Muhammad, without a word, approached Yasmin. He broke his dried-out apple in half and handed her a piece. Looked at her with innocent yet profound love. He said in his small, stumbling voice, Yasmin, you eat. A child who couldn't understand the horrors of war understood hunger. A boy who lived in a closed world opened his heart to share the only thing that gave him comfort. The next morning, my sister woke to the sound of her children playing outside the tent. Muhammad was sitting on the ground, holding what was left of the apple's peel. He was drawing lines in the sand with it. His drawings didn't make sense. It was as if he was creating a new world from the ashes of ours. Life in that tent wasn't easy, and hunger was an unrelenting enemy, yet Muhammad's apple became a symbol for the family, one of hope, love, and resilience, even in the darkest times. That's it. That's the stories. A little bit more. Muhammad's father Ibrahim, Yar's husband, was separated from us during the chaos. He now spends most of his day in the market selling water and trying to secure food and aid for the family. His absence from the tent is difficult, but he does everything he can to support us. My sister Yara now says, Muhammad taught me that the smallest things can carry the greatest meanings. So, thoughts, Care Bear?
Fun sped.
Yeah, but it does say perhaps, and this is
special education.
Yeah, it does say that, and this is why I wanted to bring it, was perhaps no one will remember this story after the war ends, but I will never forget it. Muhammad, the boy who lived in his own world, taught me that love can be bigger than hunger, and that even a dried out apple can be the greatest gift in the world. And I think remembering these stories is super important. Like, I don't want them to just be lost in the ether, so might as well put them in stone here on our channel, you know? But
well, that's why I'm saying you should make this a series. So that way you can create a playlist for them. So that way, if not to say people will forget, but at least you have something on record to show that you actually took the time to care about. Look, it's one thing to talk about news or whatever, but it's another thing to hear from actual people. Now, granted, we have tried to have Palestinians on the show. And obviously, because reasons of safety or whatever else, that's been extremely difficult. But this is probably the next best thing that we can do. So, but it's important because it humanizes them. And especially for you guys in our chat, our family, like when you hear a lot of these pro-Israeli shows say, Hamas and all this kind of stuff, you can show them this. It's like, this is the reality of what's happening. And this is happening because this is not Hamas's responsibility. They're not the occupying force here.
No.
This is happening because of Israel. They're the ones in control. And now Trump is basically saying he wants to take over Gaza, which now people are clutching their pearls about.
Right.
But Biden has facilitated the means of which Trump is now able to expedite the destruction and the rebuild.
It's been the plan from the beginning.
Right. It's just that Trump has been more overt in saying that. We've talked about how that's been a more covert operation for really for the last 2 years. But people didn't care and would want you to rather vote for the man that is complicit in that and silent about it than a man who is openly bragging about, oh no, we're going to do this. So, but Trailer Man rock. That's why I work with him. That's why, especially young kids. And shout out to Muhammad, even though he's on the spectrum, and I think this is just an example. Now, I don't know Muhammad, but it seems like he's more functionally capable, given what is read in the story, than others who may not be. But, even people who have special needs, I would argue are more capable of being human than most of us, because I argue that they are more connected to the world than most of us are. They do not generally take the things that they see for granted, but they can also be the biggest faith givers if you give them the room to be. So Muhammad proved that, and I know even in my teaching, there have been children who was bad in various levels have shown that to me too. So, so I think one, it's important, support special education, because this is the fear right now, especially with the Department of Ed, that a lot of these programs that help assist these populations in particular, teachers will not be able to do their jobs to educate, and more importantly, help develop these children in a way that they can be someone like Muhammad. Because at the end of the day, they have to be engaged in this world too, and we need them to be engaged in a way that can be helpful. So it's great that Muhammad, even though he was young, he was able to impact the world in a small way, but in a major way, I would argue. But that's what we need. We need people to be engaged and be ready to show support and show love and to show that activism when needed. And this shows even at 4 years old that children, even with a disability, can do that. So I think that's the important message that stood out to me in both these stories, that young children are capable literally of changing the world. And if we give them the space and the empowerment to do it.
I agree. And bringing these kinds of stories, certainly why we're demonetized. So scan that QR code on your screen, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork and support our channel if you'd like to see more of this type of content. But we get it, times are tough. You can help our channel by liking and subscribing. Same as everyone else asks you to do the same thing. Share the video. That would help immensely. Send this to your friends, your family. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. How heartbroken is that story to you? Because it was pretty bad for me. But anyway, thanks for watching. Who are the chats, Care Bear? I saw some good ones. Let me go back to them.
Oh,
look
Sean.
at that. Sean, appreciate you so much,
Sean.
bro.
Thank you. Again.
Keeping the lights on by yourself.
Thank you.
Doing the Lord's work.
But speaking of Sean, he there were quite a few.
There was a couple comments I wanted to specifically get to.
So Sean said, the ability for life to continue is inherent in the children around us every day. Heartbreak, I guess, emojis.
Crying
kids.
face, loudly crying.
This is why, Natalie Williams in YouTube chat. I love teaching the young as well, but there's a dark side when you suspect they're abused or raised in trauma-inducing. Yes. And I won't get into that. Reef knows I'm going for that right now.
As you are every year, as my mother did every year. It's always a problem.
This year in particular, I have a child who, for all intents and purposes, is in a trauma-filled situation, partially by the parent.
And mainly,
but I'll argue also by capitalism.
That thing.
Ultimately. And bureaucracy in our system that claims to care for children.
Kamishwari Kate in the chat. My friend was a teacher in elementary school. The children were almost all from food insecure homes. My friend told me one little girl drew an apple and ate the drawing. Jesus. It's awful. So the place where my friend taught was in Milwaukee. To think that a child will draw a picture of an apple and attempt to eat it. It's just heartbreaking. And, so 20 years ago, she said, which it's not gotten much better. But, Oz the Boomer's here.
The smallest. What's up, Oz? Natalie in the chat, the smallest act of humanity in the midst of such atrocity is a beautiful thing.
So for sure.
Thank you for that.
So Yeah, appreciate Oz is here. If you're not doing anything Saturday, go check him and Shanda out. But anything else?
Sean in the chat again. Yeah, there's quite a ton.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but a lot. Sympathy and empathy seem to be dwindling amongst the elders, but it seems the kids are more equipped. Yeah.
Yep. Desert Mantis, Susan Al-Buhawa told stories of Palestinians who shared portions of what little food they could acquire with the stray pets. That shows the beauty of the Palestinian people. I've seen that exactly. They're still carrying their cats and dogs around, which is just wild to me. KYE, spoiler alert, love and compassion wins. I truly hope you're right. Oz says, yes, so far should be a good one in reference to his show on Saturday night. Go check out Beauty and the Boomer. I think Oz can leave links to his channel if he hasn't done that already. You should be able to do that. Kate, I was a teacher in elementary school and I only lasted 3 months. I wasn't prepared for trauma lives of children and landed in a locked ward. I had to leave teaching and started riding Harleys. So good for you.
Yeah,
it's not for everyone. It's tough.
No, it's tough.
So anyway,
honestly, I'm surprised I'm still teaching it. For me, it's been 20 years. So, I think this speaks to how battle-tested I am, and also some of my, I would argue, kind of arrogance at this point, because I refuse. But even my feeling like it's a lot. So even now, kind of looking at different things.
So, but you ready for our next one?
Is there a more important job than that of a teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of being on the opposite end of the spectrum. So, we heard some touching stories from kids, but we're going to hear some rage baiting movements from adults.
Yes.
And these adults are ones who have a lot more control from us, a lot more control and privilege than us. So we're going to get into the Super Bowl a little bit. As I said earlier, didn't watch, didn't care to watch. But this ad that featured Snoop Dogg and Tom Brady got a little press, especially on Twitter. I think it could be looked at, if you looked at it on a service level, like for altruistic reasons, maybe. But deep down, and you probably could figure this out, there's a lot of nonsense and a lot of corruption surrounding this commercial, and especially these two.
Yes.
So, and the people
and the
that
Super
are
Bowl in general
are actually,
right.
And we'll get more into that later when we talk about Kendrick. But shout out to who wrote Alan McLeod.
I brought him too today.
Who wrote this? Who wrote this up? Where he writes, Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg's Super Bowl ad isn't what you think. Here's who we find it. Now, due to copyright, we're not going to show it.
Yeah.
You can find it on Twitter. It's a short ad. It's like 30 seconds, but basically go back and forth and basically,
they're like,
I think the whole
I hate you because I don't understand you. Well, I hate you because you smoke too much weed. Well, I hate you because you don't smoke enough weed. I hate you because you hate Dr. Seuss. I hate you because you love Dr. Seuss. Pretty much, right? I mean, just flowery bullshit, similar to that Kamala Hope, thing. It's very, paid for by the ADL, right? Or something close to it.
We'll get into it, though. We'll talk about it. Well, actually, Alan talks about it. Football star Tom Brady and rap legend Snoop Dogg will appear in a big money Super Bowl ad denouncing hatred. The ad is paid for by the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism, a group staffed by Israeli lobbyists that attempts to equate opposition to Israel's destruction of Gaza with anti-Jewish racism. The group was founded by billionaire owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, who is one of the pro-Israel lobby's most generous benefactors. We've talked about
Kraft we have.
A while ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad dude. Kraft has used his power to attempt to crush the nationwide Palestine solidarity movement on campus and the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. So Alan continues. As they tune in to watch the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend, hundreds of millions of Americans will also be served up something they're not expecting: pro-Israel propaganda. Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady and rap star Snoop Dogg are set to appear in a big money advertisement for the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism that will air twice during the Super Bowl. The ad features Brady and Snoop hurling insults at each other before both conclude that hatred and intolerance in America would have become so bad that we have to do a commercial about it. The FCAS was founded in 2019 by New England Patriot owner Robert Kraft to counter the growing wave of anti-Israel, pro-Palestine sentiment across America. Kraft, net worth $11.8 billion, has sunk hundreds of millions of dollars into the foundation and dozens of pro-Israel lobbying groups and politicians. Thus, although it is titled No Reason to Hate, hence the title of this segment, and its message is not explicit, it is clear that hatred in this context means opposition to the state of Israel's treatment of its neighbors.
Yep.
The ad, which has already been released on social media, has garnered a mixed response, to say the least. Many commenters suggest that this is the latest and most embarrassing thing Snoop Dogg has ever done for money.
Which he also performed for the president's inauguration, and that's a pretty close second, you know? So, you know.
For real? Damn, it must be true.
Super Bowl commercials do not come cheap, we all know this. Fortunately, the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism has backers with seemingly limitless funds. The FCAS was founded, in their own words, to stand up to Jewish hate and all hate by inspiring Americans to become active allies in the light. The FCAS has received hundreds of millions of dollars since 2019, including 2 $100 million donations from Kraft and the Normal R. Rouse and Ruth Rouse Foundation. However, upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that the FCAS is simply another pro-Israel group using the language of anti-racism to crush grassroots opposition to Israeli actions abroad. Firstly, many of its key figures are former Israeli officials or lobbyists. For example, the organization's Director of Partnerships and Strategy, Clara Schwartz, previously served as a secretary to multiple Israeli ambassadors to the United States. Meanwhile, Maya Buki Dabi, FCAS Chief Philanthropy Officer, is the former director of AIPAC, the principal Israel lobbying institution in the United States. The FCAS asserts that anti-Semitism incidents have skyrocketed in recent years. The basis for this claim, however, is data from the Anti-Defamation League, who specifically include peaceful pro-Palestine protests as examples of anti-Jewish hatred, mean that any expression of sympathy or solidarity with Palestine and its people could be counted. The ALD's CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, has not only alleged that anti-Zionism is inherently anti-Semitic, but even saying that anti-Zionism is genocide. Explaining his position, he insisted that every Jewish person is a Zionist. It is fundamental to our existence. That is not true. This will likely be news to a large plurality of American Jews under 40 who, polls show, consider Israel to be a racist apartheid state, of which, shout out to Indy, who is over that age, is also anti the state of Israel. On its website, the FCAS takes
Norman Finkelstein. These are. I just love how stop anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, people are Israelis are berating Torah Jews for their beliefs. They're giving pagers to Norman Finkelstein and others. I mean, it's just, is that not anti-Semitic? You know, is that not hate crimes?
Right.
Like,
right.
If we're going to be like that about it, you know, not to mention all the despicable things done to Palestinians who are also Semitic. Funny how that works. And don't go looking into the DNA of, you know, the people of Israel. You might find some other bad news there. You might not be as Semitic as you think, you know? So, tough world out there, ain't it? It's tough.
But anyway, on its website, the FCAS takes a similar position to Greenblatt, listing anti-Zionism in the same bracket as Holocaust denial or support, seemingly equating the two. All right, so let's talk about this guy here.
Yeah.
Kraft, who made his money in the manufacturing and packaging business, was one of the key figures in suppressing the recent wave of pro-Palestine protests across American universities. The epicenter of the movement was Columbia University in New York. The billionaire is one of the institution's most important benefactors, donating millions of dollars, including $3 million to fund the Kraft Center for Jewish Student Life. This gives him considerable leverage over the university board. In April 2024, Kraft publicly announced he was cutting Columbia off from his lavish funding over its failure to suppress the protests effectively enough. I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country, he said in a statement, claiming that Columbia was not protecting its Jewish students. Soon after, the university authorities called for the police to destroy the demonstrations. Hundreds of students were arrested, and some were suspended and faced deportation. So again, talking about Trump deporting, this is under Biden at the time. So where's the outrage for Biden being willing to do this over people who are pro-Palestine? Israel does not have a moral law friend of Robert Kraft. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once said of his close associate. Netanyahu is right. The Jewish state is a primary driving force behind Kraft's politics. The 83-year-old plutocrat married his wife in Israel in 1962 and has made over 100 visits to the country since, including many meetings with successive prime ministers. He is also one of the principal sources of money for the notorious Israel lobby in the United States. In 2022, for instance, he gave $1 million to AIPAC's Super PAC. Indeed, it sometimes seems that there is barely a pro-Israel group he has not underwritten. Other organizations he has made sizable donations to include the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, the ADL, the Jewish Agency for Israel, the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis, also known as CAMRA, Stand With Us, and the Israeli Project. But the most significant way in which Kraft inserts pro-Israel policy into American life is through donating to Israel-friendly politicians standing against progressives and other advocates for justice in Palestine. In 2022, for example, he funded Congresswoman Shontel Brown's campaign against Nina Turner. At the time, Brown was a relatively little-known but strongly pro-Israel candidate standing against a Democratic Socialist, the national co-chair of Bernie Sanders' 2020 election campaign, and an outspoken critic of Israeli government policy. Vast amounts of pro-Israel money flowed into Brown's campaign, helping her to defeat Turner. In her acceptance speech, Brown praised Israel and later thanked the Jewish community for helping me get over the finish line. Other pro-Israel Democrats Kraft has funded included David Sitzline, Juan Vargas, Ted Deutsch, Jake Auchincloss, and, probably most famous of the bunch, Richie Torres. In addition, his own organization, Touchdown in Israel, regularly organizes publicity trips to Israel for NFL stars, hoping they'll become advocates of the Jewish state. So he is in this deep. And this is probably one of his acolytes, more than likely, Mr. Tom Brady himself, one of the players that Kraft has personally taken to Israel in his own star quarterback, well, former star quarterback, Tom Brady. The two traveled there in 2006, meeting Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and visiting an IDF military base. Brady was even baptized in the Jesus Christ, like
Oh, funny.
baptized in the Jordan River. Wait, he isn't even is he even Jewish?
No, but that's still Christian Zionism. Remember, that's a thing. You know,
true.
Like,
true.
And it's also
true.
it's like it's where Jesus was baptized, allegedly, right? By John the Baptist.
Yeah.
I remember my Bible study. You know,
the trip clearly made a deep impression on Brady, who remains an outspoken supporter of Israel to this day. He was vociferous in his condemnation of the October 7th, 2023 attack. There should be no gray area about condemning Hamas terrorist attacks on Israeli citizens. No human deserves this, he wrote, adding, the devastation in Israel is tragic and unacceptable. The murder and violence against innocent people by Hamas is terrorism. He also promoted highly questionable assertions of mass sexual violations carried out against Israeli women by Hamas. All of us must mildly condemn sexual violence wherever it occurs, he started. He has not, however, said anything of the well-documented cases of mass sexual violence against Palestinian prisoners by Israeli forces.
Yeah.
He also has not said shit about the sexual issues allegedly against his former boss.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress.
Mm-hmm. I mean, don't worry. You don't need more reasons to hate Tom Brady. There's plenty of those. Right. You know, like
the one that
always have
forced his ass.
Right.
Today, he is the face of the FCAS campaign. The Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism is doing incredible work, and I'm honored to stand with them in the fight against hate, he said. This Super Bowl, football is on my mind, but so is something even bigger. Building a world where hate has no place. The No Reason to Hate campaign isn't just a message, it's a movement. Oh, God. I am proud to be a part of it, and I hope you join us. You're at it. No, thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
The yoke of the devil has been destroyed.
Ugh.
So, moving on from one show to this one. The inclusion of Snoop Dogg is part of an FCAS attempt to target Black communities specifically. The ad is part of a broader campaign that includes partnering with historically Black colleges to, in FCAS' own words, develop social change initiatives and continuously improve the Black-Jewish alliance. This partnership includes bringing together the United Negro College Fund and pro-Israel college group Hillel International together for a unity summit on February 7th, which will bring Black and Jewish college students together under one roof with the shared mission of combating hate. The event will feature panels from notable Black sports stars and a keynote speech from Kraft himself. Israel and its advocates are losing the Black community. A 2024 poll found that African American support for Israel's genocide is greatly lower than that of the rest of the country. Over 10% of Black respondents said that Israel's military actions since October 7th were justified. In comparison, a plurality of white Americans, 33%, said they supported Israel's attack on Gaza. Black Americans were also much more likely to support Washington exerting diplomatic pressure and restricting military aid to Israel than the population at large. The reasons for this are manifold, but many Black leaders, as well as movements such as Black Lives Matter, have allied themselves with the Palestinian cause, seeing parallels and connections between the oppression of Palestinians abroad and the treatment of Black Americans at home. As such, Israel has a serious PR crisis in the Black community. Hence, the attempts to reach them through sports and music.
Yep.
Which I find very insulting, honestly.
Yes.
Right. It's
as insulting as, Popeyes joining up with Don Julio. That's the way it's, right. And it's like, it's like you might as well throw grape soda in too, Like,
right.
Seems fucking racist as shit, but that's just me,
Right. As if Black people are not capable of,
right.
learning about the cause any other way.
Yeah.
So sports
Yeah.
and music, like the two things that Black people care about, seemingly. So anyway, this is not the first time the FCAS has attempted to target African Americans. Last year, the organization debuted another Super Bowl commercial featuring Clarence B. Jones, the former advisor to MLK, who drafted his famous "I Had a Dream" speech. The ad's message was that there was a growing wave of racist intolerance across the United States, and that we all must come together to oppose anti-Semitism. It ends by instructing viewers to visit the website standuptojewishhate.com. The pro-Israel lobby has long understood that it has a serious problem with the Black community. Emails released by WikiLeaks revealed top entertainment executives bemoaning their inability to convince Black Americans to support Zionism, and it's discussing tactics to achieve this end. And I have a theory. We'll get into it later.
Okay.
I wonder if Jay-Z is a
sure.
part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, I'll explain why later. Given Super Bowl.
Yes.
The lobby found a powerful ally in hip-hop mogul Russell Simmons, the co-founder of Def Jam Records. Simmons suggested that what was needed to improve Israel's image was simple messaging from non-Jews, specifically from Muslims, promoting peace and Israel's right to exist. We have resources and desire to win rather than lose the hearts of young Muslims and Jews. Simmons' emails revealed the existence of a vast and well-funded psychological operation targeting the Black community. As he put it, we have hundreds of collaboration programs between imams, rabbis, and their congregations. We have many respected imams who would join former Chief Rabbi Yonah Metzer, Rabbi Mark Schneider, and non-Jews in promoting the Saudi peace plan. Through his campaign, we will be helping Israel, he concluded. Israel may have been able to find Gaza, but it has failed to win the global war of public perception. A Morning Council poll last year found that the country's favorability dropped in 42 of the 43 nations polled. Even wealthy developing nations like Japan, South Korea, and the UK view Tel Aviv negatively. In the United States, support for Israel is also dropping, particularly among young people and people of color. Its supporters are acutely aware that the colonial project would collapse without support from the U.S. government.
Yeah.
This was a prime cause of the TikTok ban last month. The platform was not sufficiently censorious of pro-Palestinian voices for Washington's taste. So we've talked about this too. They mentioned China, when actually it was really Israel that was.
And when TikTok came back, the first thing that was banned, Free Palestine, can't say that on there. So you know what happened.
Right. It is also the reason for the massive propaganda operation being launched on the American public by the Foundation to Control Anti-Semitism and other groups who are trying to persuade the country that opposition to genocide is akin to support for Hitler. That message seems to be a tough sell. Yes. Anything might be possible when you have Robert Kraft's billions behind you. And I'm sure others billions behind, but again, we'll get into that later. Thoughts, Reef?
Well, I mean, you know how I feel about the whole thing. You know, Super Bowl is one of the biggest fucking military bootlicking, like, consumerist crap there is, So, I mean, sports in general at this point, it's tough to kind of compartmentalize that. I know people still try to, but like when the B-2 bombers go over every stadium every week, it's a little tough. But we got to sing the national anthem, and I mean, it's just not great for me. But this is definitely targeted crap. Like they're hoping for any optics or whatever all the time. I find it funny that they allow groups like that to put their message out, but they've never allowed like a legalized cannabis or like healthcare ad or any of those things into the Super Bowl, but this
like
one,
God forbid, talk about
it.
the need for universal healthcare or like housing or any.
We all know why The entire thing is owned by the richest. Like, Miriam Adelson literally has her own football teams, or did, you know? So, like, not great, you know? So, like, if we're going to boycott stuff, if that's what we're doing, make sure to do it to all the things that include the things, you know? Like, if we're gonna not do Starbucks and McDonald's, which you shouldn't, maybe the NFL should be on the chopping block too. You know, you won't miss it. You'll be fine. Like,
no.
So
I haven't really watched. That's not to say I haven't watched football games since 2016. I have.
Yeah.
But I'm not actively looking or caring anymore.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think the last time I actually watched a Super Bowl in full. When was it? When did I move here? Like 2018. And I only did because a friend invited me to a bar to watch it. So it was like, all right, I'll go. But, you know, not to mention just in this case, don't care about Philly, didn't care about Kansas City. So wasn't going to watch it anyway. The only thing that would have been worth watching would have been the commercials and the halftime show, which, again, we'll get into later. But
yeah,
I have thoughts about that, too.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, putting a stick in Brady and Snoop is why we were probably demonetized, among other reasons. So if you want to support us, feel free to scan the QR code that you see on your screen or go to the Ko-fi link that you see at the bottom of that screen there. Or if you're in the YouTube chat, type in !donate, all one word, and the link will pop up in the chat where you're able to donate to us. Any little bit helps and we appreciate it. But we know a lot of you, money is tight. So the free way and probably the best way to help us is to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And please comment on our stuff and our clips. You know, we love to hear from you. So what do you think about the underbelly in terms of these commercial Super Bowl ads, especially this ad that Robert Kraft had a hand in? Do you fucking hate the Patriots as much as? And I'm saying that for someone who lived in Boston
that for a long time.
Well, you know what? To be fair, like, I hated Brady before all of this stuff of Brady came out. Like, I liked him at first, but then he just got too big for his britches, and I'm just like, I can't fucking stand you. You know? And now I have more reasons why I can't stand it. Not to mention, I said, was it you or Indy? Like, he got divorced from Giselle. Like, no, how in the fuck could you let that go? How could you fuck that up?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're with one of the most hottest, well, say what you want, but like one of the most well-known models in the world, and you fuck that up? Like, what kind of fuck up are you?
Yeah.
But anyway, like, if you hate Brady, let us know in the comments. And help us get to free K so more people are able to see our content. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. All right. Coolio, rapper from the 90s. All right. To the chats. Yee. Beep, bop, boop. Cool. Let me get up to.
Guess no one really watched the Super Bowl in our chat either,
right.
By the looks of it.
Essentially, that was just men on Super Bowl for Collin.
Right.
So,
Desert Man is in the chat. Brady probably sells his supplements to Israelis, probably.
Yeah. KYE Kraft, a friend of Epstein, first name Joffrey. But people talking about rescuing pitties as one with a pity, lovely dogs to have, you know. Sean the Cordelwood Greenblatt sounds like what happens after you eat gas station sushi. Someone's made some mistakes in their life. Someone's done that.
Mastermind Hour in the chat. Jesus' teachings are anti-Semitic. The upside down smiley face emoji.
Well, what happened to him? Little boy who cried wolf ended up with the wolf. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bunch of that this week. You know, a bunch of Zionists getting called out. Like, unless you can call us liars, we don't care. And you can't. So, figure that out.
Mastermind Hour, all the Super Bowl commercials sucked.
Good to know. Are you telling me
wouldn't care. Although
Seal as a seal singing Baja Blast as Kiss from the Rose wasn't the perfect commercial?
That was a commercial?
I do believe so. You know, Mountain Dew Baja Blast with Seal. I don't know if that was this year or last year.
Kill Your Igors said he liked it, although he was stoned watching it.
That helps.
So yeah.
And I heard the halftime show was good. I mean, I do like Kendrick. There are some issues with him, but his stuff is good.
No, I said this. No, I said this. I think I said this before regarding Kendrick. Like, he's goofy. Like
yes.
Like, I like Kendrick in terms of his music. I do think he's talented, but he gives me the side eye for certain things that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, we're going to get to him much later in our extra segment. But I've always felt a way about Kendrick, you know. But I think
Natalie Williams' Prince was still the best halftime show. Yep, pretty good. I like the one with Bruno Mars and Red Hot Chili Peppers was good, and then also the Blues Brothers and James Brown was a pretty great one. People don't remember that one.
Let us know in the comments which Super Bowl you believe was number one.
MJ's also a good one too.
It'll probably be Prince.
Yeah, Prince kind of murdered.
That was my first Super Bowl. That was my first Super Bowl that I ever watched.
Yeah,
when I've moved to the US. That's the one I remember the most. That's definitely up there. Beyonce's first Super Bowl performance is also up there. But I think Prince definitely was number one.
Yes, sir.
For me, by far. And even then, I wasn't even a fan of Prince like that, but I understood the assignment, so to speak, you know? So, But yeah, Prince was definitely the best.
Speaking of Prince, let's go to one who wishes he was. This fucking guy, which I should have grabbed. Like, have you ever seen that one of his shitty profile where he looks like some weird Cro-Magnon mutant? I should have grabbed that one. But I did this one. So you're probably wondering what Elon's dome is in reference to, and it's not the good kind. So this is from Mint Press and Sheerpost by Alan McLeod. You know, one of the good ones, but he writes the Pentagon is recruiting Elon Musk to help them win a nuclear war. You ever watch Strangelove? You should if you haven't. A lot of parallels in Strangelove. But Donald Trump has announced his intention to build a gigantic anti-ballistic missile system to counter Chinese and Russian nuclear weapons. Oh, no. Why would we do that? And he is recruiting Elon Musk to help him. The Pentagon has long dreamed of constructing an American Iron Dome. That's the dome in reference. The technology is couched in the defense language, i.e. to make America safe again. Now, Collin, do you remember the last time this was tried? There was a particular Mr. Ronald Reagan, correct? You remember that plan?
Correct.
The old Star Wars?
I do not.
That old plan?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so very similar stuff here, but like its Israeli counterpart, it would function as a offensive weapon, giving the United States the ability to launch nuclear attacks anywhere in the world without having to worry about the consequences of a similar response. Literally the plot to Strangelove, by the way, if you've not watched it. Spoilers. But, you know, that's essentially the Russians have figured out how to defend nukes, and then they launch war before then, allegedly. you know? So, giving the United States the ability to launch nuclear attacks anywhere, this power could upend the fragile peace maintained by decades of mutually assured destruction. A doctrine that has underpinned global stability since the 1940s. So, which, just because it's the Iron Dome, tired peasant, Gaza is a testing site for what will happen here. Jack's Page in agreement. So, I think yes, very much so. Washington's war planners have long salivated to the thought of winning a nuclear confrontation and have sought the ability to do so for decades. Some believe that they have found a solution and a savior in the South African-born billionaire and his technology. Neocons think tank the Heritage Foundation published a video last year stating that Musk might have solved the nuclear threat coming from
China.
It claimed that Starlink satellites from his SpaceX company could be easily modified to carry weapons that could shoot down incoming rockets. Again, Star Wars. We've tried this before. So, as they explain, Elon Musk has proven that you could put microsatellites into orbit for $1 million apiece. Using that same technology, we can put 1,000 microsatellites in continuous orbit around the Earth that can track, engage, and shoot down using tungsten slugs, missiles that are launched from North Korea, Iran, Russia, and China. Note the countries they're worried about. Right? So, you know, especially that Iran one, which we tried to deal with their nukes quite a few times, no? Although the Heritage Foundation advises using tungsten slugs, i.e. bullets, as interceptors, hypersonic missiles have been opted for instead. To this end, a new organization, the Castilian Company, was established in 2023. Castilian is a SpaceX cutout. 6 of the 7 members of its leadership team and 2 of its 4 senior advisors are ex-senior SpaceX employees. The other 2 advisors are former high officials from the CIA, including Mike Griffin, Musk's longtime friend, mentor, and partner. Funny how that works. So there's Mike Griffin, in case you didn't know. Lisa Porter, Zach Dunn, Jim Martz, right? You should probably recognize those names in case you ever see them in public. Castilian's mission, in its own words, is to be at the cutting edge of a new global arms race, as the company explains. Despite the U.S. annual defense budget exceeding those of the next 10 biggest spenders combined, there's irrefutable evidence that authoritarian regimes are taking the lead in key military technologies like hypersonic weapons. Simply put, this cannot be allowed to happen. I like how it's, you know, authoritarian regimes just because they've got better stuff than you. The company has already secured gigantic contracts with the U.S. military, and reports suggest that it has made significant strides towards its hypersonic missile goals. So, Castilian's slogan is peace through deterrence, which sounds exactly like mutually assured destruction to me, but in reality, the U.S. achieving a breakthrough in hypersonic missile technology which ruptured the fragile nuclear peace that has existed for over 70 years and usher in a new era where Washington would have the ability to use whatever weapons it wished, anywhere in the world, at any time, safe in the knowledge that it would be impervious to a nuclear response from any other nation. Get it? Now no longer mutually assured. We can destroy and be fine ourselves. Allegedly. You know, there's some nuclear fallouts, not great. But in short, the fear of a nuclear retaliation from Russia or China have been one of the few forces moderating U.S. aggression throughout the world. If this is lost, the United States would have free reign to turn entire countries or even regions of the planet into vapor. This would, in turn, hand it the power to terrorize the world and impose whatever economic and political system anywhere it wishes. If this sounds fanciful, this nuclear blackmail was a more or less official policy of successive American administrations in the 40s and 50s. The United States remains the only country ever to drop an atomic bomb in anger. doing so twice in 1945 against a Japanese foe that was already defeated and was attempting to surrender. President Truman ordered the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki as a show of force, primarily to the Soviet Union. Many in the U.S. government wished to use the atomic bomb on the USSR. President Truman immediately, however, reasoned that if America nuked Moscow, the Red Army would invade Europe as a response. As such, he decided to wait until the U.S. had enough warheads to completely destroy the Soviet Union and its military. War planners calculated this figure at around 400, and to that end, totaling a nation representing 1/6 of the world's landmass. The president ordered the immediate ramping up of production. This decision was met with stiff opposition among the American scientific community, and is widely believed that Manhattan Project scientists, including Oppenheimer himself, passed nuclear secrets to Moscow in an effort to speed up their nuclear project and develop a deterrent to halt this doomsday scenario. In the end, the Soviet Union was able to successfully develop a nuclear weapon before the US was able to produce hundreds. Thus, the idea of wiping the USSR from the face of the earth was shelved. Incidentally, it is now understood that the effects of dropping hundreds of nukes simultaneously would likely have sparked vast firestorms across Russia, resulting in the emission of enough smoke to choke the Earth's atmosphere, block out the sun's rays for a decade, and end organized human life as we know it on the planet. With the Russian nuclear window closing by 1949, the US turned its nuclear arsenal on the nascent People's Republic of China. The US invaded China in 1945, occupying parts of it for years until the communist forces under Mao Zedong forced both them and their nationalist KMT allies from the country. During the Korean War, some of the most powerful voices in Washington advocated dropping nuclear weapons on the 12 largest Chinese cities in response to China entering the fray. Indeed, both Truman and his successor Dwight D. Eisenhower publicly used the threat of the atomic bomb as a negotiating tactic. Routed on the mainland, the US-backed KMT fled to Taiwan, established a one-party state in 1958. The US also came close to dropping the bomb on China to protect its allies' new regime over control of the disputed land, an episode of history that resonates with the present-day conflict over Taiwan. Funny how history repeats. However, by 1964, China had developed its own nuclear warhead, effectively ending US pretensions and helping to usher in the détente era of a good relations between the two powers, an epoch that lasted well into the 21st century. This is essentially, guns at people's heads until they find their own gun. And then it's like, friends? You want to be friends? Okay. So, any thoughts before I keep moving? Hey, Kate dropped us 15. So, appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
Yes. You were saying?
I just wonder how AI is going to play into all this.
Oh, yes. Good. Colin's putting his thinking cap on today. You mean like AI nuclear deterrent? You mean AI nuclear targeting?
Yes.
You mean AI nuclear defense? Yes, all those things.
Yes.
All those things. AI drone swarms that you don't even necessarily need to drop a nuke. You can drop thousands of tiny robots and they'll do the work for you, equivalent to killing the same amount of people. So
for a lot that's
cheaper.
The only reason why is right, but that was the first thing in thinking about this story. Elon Musk and Pentagon, it's like AI, like Twitter, like like what's the connection there? And obviously, given the stories that you in particular have reported on, putting two and two together, and the more of the use of AI basically to run everything. And given, as you reported, the error rate, depending on the industry, they could very well get things wrong.
Yeah.
To the point that could be destructive for people that it affects. So it just makes me wonder, like, to what capacity the Pentagon is using Elon to get this going in, unfortunately, for war, especially among what it's among our alleged
why,
enemies.
Right?
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it's putting lasers on the moon. That's what we're doing, which we've argued we shouldn't do for a while now. But, we already have enough space trash in space for that. So, yeah, not great. But, no, I mean, this is same old space race, like, arms race stuff, essentially, in our new Cold War era. However, in short, then, it is only the existence of a credible deterrent that tempers Washington actions around the world. Since the end of World War II, the United States has only attacked relatively defenseless countries. The reason the North Korean government remains in place, but those of Libya, Iraq, and Syria and others do not, is the existence of the former's large-scale conventional and nuclear forces. Developing an American Iron Dome could upset this delicate balance and usher in a new age of U.S. military dominance. Go, do the thing. Go, next slide. Thank you. Musk, however, has downplayed both the probability and the consequences of nuclear war. On the Lex Friedman podcast, he described the likelihood of terminal confrontation as quite low. And while speaking with Trump last year, he claimed that nuclear holocaust is not as scary as people think. I'm sorry, what? What? That not as scary as people think? Have you seen any movie with nukes? Like,
oh god.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not great. He claimed that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they are full cities again. Yeah. Yeah. They've apparently never watched Godzilla either, apparently. But according to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, there are over 12,000 warheads in the world. The vast majority of them owned by Russia and the United States, while many consider them a blight on humanity and favor their complete eradication. Musk advocates building thousands more, sending them into space and firing them at Mars. Wait, what? You say again? Thousands more, sending them into space and firing them at Mars? Like, that's okay. Why would you might do that? Well, Musk's quixotic plan is to terraform the red planet by firing at least 10,000 nuclear missiles at it. Like, Dr. Evil is running this country. I swear he is. Like, the heat generated by the bombs.
Bush had Cheney. Well, I mean, Bush had Cheney.
Yes. This Trump is way worse. Way worse. The heat generated by the bombs would melt its polar ice caps, releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the greenhouse effect thus triggered. The theory goes, would raise Mars' temperature and air pressure to the point of supporting human life. Okay. Sure. Few scientists have endorsed this idea. Got it. Indeed, Dmitry Rogozin, then head of the Russian space agency Roscosmos, labeled the theory completely absurd and nothing more than a cover for filling space with American nuclear weapons aimed at Russia, China, and other nations, drawing Washington's ire. And if you don't follow the space race that closely, those Ruskies beat us to everything but the moon. Okay? They might know what they're talking about. So, we understand that one thing is hidden behind this demagoguery, I would hope. This is a cover for the launch of nuclear weapons into space, he said. We see such attempts, we consider them unacceptable, and we will hinder this to the greatest extent possible. What do you think that means?
Mm-hmm.
That means, try me, bitch. That's what that means.
Right.
So the first Trump administration's actions, including withdrawing from multiple international anti-ballistic missile treaties, have made this process more difficult. I wonder why. Until he entered the Trump White House, many still perceived Musk as a radical tech industry outsider. Yet, this was never the case. From virtually the beginning of his career, Musk's path had been shaped by his exceptionally close relationship with the U.S. national security state, particularly with Mike Griffin of the CIA. From 2002 to 2005, Griffin led In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capitalist wing. In-Q-Tel is an organization dedicated to identifying, nurturing, and working with tech companies that can provide Washington with cutting-edge technologies, keeping it one step ahead of its competition. We brought up In-Q-Tel before, people in the know, but Griffin was an early believer in Musk. In February 2002, he accompanied Musk to Russia, where the pair attempted to purchase cut-price intercontinental ballistic missiles to start SpaceX. Griffin spoke up for Musk in government meetings, backing him as a potential Henry Ford of the tech and military industry complex. After In-Q-Tel, Griffin became the chief administrator of NASA. In 2018, President Trump appointed him the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. While at NASA, Griffin brought Musk in for meetings and secured SpaceX's big break. In 2006, NASA awarded the company a $396 million rocket development contract, a remarkable gamble, in Griffin's words, especially as it had never launched a rocket. That, Colin, is what they call a welfare check. So,
right.
Just saying. In Griffin's words, a gamble. National Geographic wrote that SpaceX never would have gotten to where it is today without NASA, and Griffin was essential to this development. Still, by 2008, both SpaceX and Tesla were in dire straits, with Musk unable to make payroll and assuming both businesses would go bankrupt. It was at this point that SpaceX was saved by an unexpected $1.6 billion NASA contract for commercial cargo services. Man, those welfare checks keep coming, don't they? Today, the pair remain extremely close, with Griffin serving as an official advisor to Castellian, a sign of just how strong the relationship is. That in 2004, Musk named his son Griffin after his CIA handler. Today, SpaceX is a powerhouse, with yearly revenues in the tens of billions and a valuation of $350 billion. But that wealth comes largely from orders from Washington. Indeed, there are few customers for rockets other than the military or the various three-letter spying agencies. In 2018, SpaceX won a contract to blast a $500 million Lockheed Martin GPS into orbit. While military spokespersons played up the civilian benefits of the launch, the primary reason for the project was to improve America's surveillance and targeting capabilities. SpaceX has also won contracts with the Air Force to deliver its command satellite into orbit, with Space Development Agency to send tracking devices into space, and with the National Reconnaissance Office to launch its spy satellites. All the big five surveillance agencies, including the CIA and the NSA, use these satellites. Therefore, in today's world, where so much intelligence gathering and target acquisition is done via satellite technology, SpaceX has become every bit as important to the American empire as Boeing, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. Simply put, without Musk and SpaceX, the U.S. would not be able to carry out such an invasive program of spying or drone warfare around the world. So, an example of how... Yes, sir. Which, guess who else helps us with that? Why do you think Elon and company are so connected at the hip to Israel? So, An example of how crucial Musk and his tech empire are to the continuation of U.S. global ambitions can be found in, you guessed it, Ukraine. Today, around 47,000 Starlink satellites operate inside the country. These portable satellite dishes, manufactured by SpaceX, have kept both Ukraine's civilian and military online. Many of these were directly purchased by the U.S. government via, guess what? U.S. aid or the Pentagon, and shipped to Kiev. Funny that when Mr. Elon is now boasting about him canceling USAID. Funny how that shit works. Anyway, in its high-tech war against Russia, Starlink has become the keystone of the Ukrainian military. It allows for satellite-based target acquisition and drone attacks on Russian forces. Indeed, on today's battlefield, many weapons require an internet connection. One Ukrainian official told the Times of London that he must use Starlink to target enemy forces via thermal imaging. What, you got to sign into Xbox Live while you're... What do you got to figure that shit out, bro. The controversial, what is the PlayStation Network down again? Figure it out, bro. The controversial mogul has also involved himself in South American politics. In 2019, he supported the U.S.-backed overthrow of socialist President Evo Morales. Morales suggested that Musk finance the insurrection, which he dubbed a lithium coup. When directly challenged with his involvement, Musk infamously replied, "We will coup whoever we want. Deal with it." Bolivia is home to the world's largest lithium reserves, a metal crucial in producing batteries for electric vehicles such as the one in Musk's Tesla cars, aka swastikars, but we'll get to that in a bit. In Venezuela last year, Musk went even further, supporting the U.S.-backed far-right candidate against socialist President Nicolas Maduro. He even went so far as to suggest he was working on a plan to kidnap the sitting president. "I'm coming for you, Maduro," phrasing. "I will carry you to Gitmo on a donkey," he said, referencing the notorious U.S. torture center. More recently, Musk has thrown himself into American politics, funding and campaigning for President Trump, and will now lead Trump's new Department of Government Efficiencies. Doge's stated mission is to cut unnecessary and wasteful government spending. However, with Musk at the helm, it seems unlikely that the billions in military contracts and tax incentives his companies have received will be on the chopping block. Funny how that works. There's a term when business interacts with government. I forget the term, but maybe people in our chat know.
I think it starts with a...
There's a fascist. Yeah. You were saying?
Of course, because if Musk get profits, then Trump is going to profit. So, so especially given, Trump is saying he's going to try and get for a third term. I don't think that's going to happen. But by the end of this, assuming Trump is still alive, by the time he's finished with this term, it's the idea like Trump was broke or like he was, financial trouble. He's going to be rich, like probably even richer than he was before. So it's just going to benefit him in order to help his rich buddies who can essentially help with his generational wealth, so to speak.
Once you have their money, you never give it back.
Pretty much. Any other rules of acquisition, Ferengi, that might reference this?
The Ferengi without profit.
It's no Ferengi at all.
Got it. Just making sure we're on the same page. So
you put those in specifically for this story, right?
No, I got a couple more. I've got something like every once in a while declare peace.
The 76th rule of acquisition.
The 76th?
Every once in a while, declare peace.
confuses the hell out of your enemies.
You know, in case another ceasefire pops up. But anyway, shout out DS9. People in the know. At Trump's inauguration, Musk garnered international headlines after gave 2 Sig Heil salutes, gesture that his daughter felt were unambiguously Nazi. Musk, who comes from a historically Nazi-supporting family, took time out from criticizing the reaction to his salute to appear at a rally for the Alternative for Deutschland party. It's springtime for Hitler, apparently. There, he said that the Germans place too much focus on past guilt and that we need to move beyond that. Can you tell that to the Israelis, dog? Can you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What the fuck are you talking about, dog?
Right, because they'd say that to black people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
All the fucking time. All the fucking time.
It don't make no motherfucking sense.
It really don't, Bernie. It really don't. Anyway, children should not feel guilty for the sins of their parents, their great-grandparents even, he added to raucous applause. I bet if you translated that to German, it might sound similar to some other speeches. But the tech tycoons' recent actions have provoked outrage among many Americans, claiming that fascists and Nazis do not belong anywhere near the U.S. space and defense programs. Well,
anyway, so
if we want to go back to the beginning of our space programs, there might be some fascists heavily involved. I don't know. I've heard some things about Wernher von Braun. Just saying what I'm saying. Okay. In reality, however, these projects from the very beginning were overseen by top German scientists brought over after the fall of Nazi Germany, aka Operation Paperclip, transported more than 16,000 German scientists to America, including the father of the American lunar project, Wernher von Braun. Von Braun was a member of both the Nazi Party and the infamous elite SS paramilitary, whose members oversaw Hitler's extermination camps. Including him, there's been very specific accusations against him, and especially his rocket facilities in Germany. So, thus, Nazism and the American Empire have, for a long time, gone hand in hand. Far more disturbing than a man with fascist sympathies being in a position of power in the U.S. military or space industry, however, is the ability of the United States is seeking for itself to be impervious to intercontinental missile attacks from its competitors. On the surface, Washington's Iron Dome plan may sound defensive in nature, but in reality, it would give it a free hand to attack any country or entity around the world any way it wishes, including with nuclear weapons. This would upend the fragile nuclear peace that has reigned since the early days of the Cold War. Elon Musk's help in this endeavor is much more worrying and dangerous than any salutes or comments he could ever make. But they do kind of go along with it, especially his family ties. You know, especially if you're South African diamond millionaires. You know, apartheid must run in the blood, I guess.
I guess.
Thoughts,
yeah.
Closing statements, you know, words from the jury.
Play Misties.
Oh yeah, I can find that.
That's all I can say.
Do the thing. It takes a minute. I have a lot in the Misty folder. There it goes. I gotta move that over to the other side. We use it more than, you know, I shouldn't have it that far away. But yeah, I mean, rough world. Keep an eye out for anyone trying to say anything that guy is doing is even barely good, because it's always bullshit once you get a layer deep. And please do keep looking layers deep. Thank you very much. Doing that is probably why we're demonetized on YouTube. So you can scan that QR code on your screen. Go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork or links in the description below. But if you can't, you know, like and subscribe, hit the share button, send this to your friends who think Elon's a good guy. let us know what you think about Elon in the comments section below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Cool. On to our last story in a bit, but we should probably check the chats.
Yep.
What do you got? We got. Let me scroll down. Scrolling.
But of course, the CIA had a venture capitalist section.
Mm-hmm.
Angry emoji.
Yep. So I still have to scroll. I haven't caught up.
Natalie, I think she might be talking. I'm not sure about the segment or a portion of the story, but she said, "Please clip this."
Probably about that USA stuff.
Right.
So, by the way, if you're on YouTube,
make...
there's a little cut button down there, I do believe. So you're welcome to grab a clip yourselves, man. I'd be too busy around these parts, bro. Get those little fingers working. Hook us up. But anyway, Peter Sellers' best performance in Doctor Strangelove. Yeah, if you've not watched Doctor Strangelove, definitely worth a watch. So Elon can make an iron dome, but don't ask him to demonstrate it with a metal ball. Yep, don't do that. Might crack some windows. But
Desert Mantis in YouTube chat. Once the rockets are up, who cares when they come down? That's not my department, says Werner von Braun.
Yeah. KYE mentioned the producers, which I did reference. Good for you for knowing your things.
Right.
It is one thing I learned watching Doctor Strangelove.
Sorry.
KYE, it's one thing I learned watching Doctor Strangelove is it only takes one psycho of power, a crazy general, or a Lindsey Graham to start a nuclear war. Yep. Pretty bad.
Nally in the chat, Elmo is a tech bros Bilderberg dystopian nightmare monster.
Yep. Pretty bad. KYE, One Nation under BlackRock.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate. Where's that? I have that. Hold on. Shout out to, where's it at? I gotta scroll down. I have it in here. Wait.
The joke wouldn't work.
No.
I wish that people.
No. Oh, here.
Our Father who art in heaven, and to the republic for which it stands. Thy kingdom come, one nation, indivisible, as it is in heaven. Give us this day as we forgive those who so proudly we hail.
Yeah.
And crown thy good into temptation, but deliver us from the twilight. Amen.
Pretty good. Love Carlin. Gotta fit him in. But anyway, you ready for a last one? I readies.
Yep. So let me go to YouTube. So we're doing Extra Story tonight. This is kind of a supplement to the segment I just did at the Super Bowl. So we're going to continue on with the Super Bowl with this character, Kendrick Lamar.
Man, damn, call the ambulance.
On the left who,
what? Sorry.
You probably would not have seen this in mainstream media, but apparently during the halftime show, this guy in that circle held up that Sudan Gaza flag in protest during the halftime show. And of course, as he would have, got escorted out immediately.
A
lot of stuff happens that the news won't tell you.
So it's funny how people are like, no one's protesting under Trump, but okay.
You got it?
I lost the slides for a second. It cut me off. So funny enough how people are like, oh, like no one's protesting under Trump. Here's your guy who did it. Like I said earlier, like, look, I like Kendrick. I like his music. I think he's very talented, but he's always kind of come off to me, especially within the last few years, as someone that gives me the side eye because he's done some things that have been kind of questionable. But given, like, you know, there's been a lot of talk. Well, actually, funny enough, like while I was at the gym today, I was watching like another YouTuber who was playing clips from people from Louisiana, basically, or New Orleans, who had a problem with Kendrick. A lot of people were like, Lil Wayne should have been the headliner, given that he's from New Orleans.
Lil Wayne's
or
got
at
some
minimum,
fuck shit
Kendrick
too.
should have utilized.
Like-
Or Kendrick at minimum should have utilized some of the NOLA culture integrated into the show. Now, I don't think Kendrick has to do that. I don't think it's a super halftime show, so it's not that serious. But we're going to get into some of the things that are around him, which is questionable, and probably one of the big reasons why, especially regarding this protester, that as of now, Kendrick has not said shit, or his handlers in connection to the Superbowl have not said shit. And it's been stuff that we've talked about on this show before. We're actually going to do a flashback on that. But we're going to start from the beginning.
You better say Free Palestine.
This is from Bits That Go Hard. Shout out to the guy that was waving the Palestinian flag behind Kendrick. So this was at least what I kind of saw on Twitter during the show. So the guy was standing on Kendrick's wheels, holding up the flag. So this was during the performance.
Right. And then he has to literally run and avoid security.
Run. Right.
So he's at the 20. He's at the 30. Good for him. So, I mean, more people, Kendrick should have done a whole verse on it, but what do I know?
Well, there's
and
probably
then they finally get him.
And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because there's probable reason why he didn't. So, but that's basically, he got
escorted off the field and whatnot.
Security, escorted. So let's go to the next slide. So shout out to Hotspot and shout out to Nico. Now, Nico has said several tweets on this, but I think he basically used all those tweets regarding this and encapsulated them into this Hotspot segment. But I'll read what he said here. The Super Bowl halftime show was emblematic of everything problematic about the U.S. Azul Anan Natambu, that's the guy who protested, waves a flag to bring attention to the genocides in Gaza and Sudan and is punished for it, while Kendrick Lamar and his colleagues, selected by Jay-Z, we'll get more to him in a minute, tap dance to cheers for empty symbolism following by zero action while raking in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to pretend as if they care about the issues brought up in his music. Natambu has been given a life-ban, meaning he cannot participate in any NFL events. He cannot go to the stadiums anymore. Not just from the NFL games, but from all NFL stadiums. Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z have not said a word to defend the protester, similar to how they've said not a word of criticism about the genocide. What we saw in real time, that genocide has become normalized in the U.S. The punishment for protesting genocide is literally steeper than actually committing a genocide. And historical victims of systemic oppression and violence are now being used as the puppets to keep people complicit. Stop celebrity worship. Hold them accountable. So let's go into more of what Nico says. So if you don't mind playing the clip.
Yep.
By now, many of you are familiar with this man, Zul Nantambu, who held up a flag calling to attention what's happening in Sudan and Gaza during the Superbowl halftime show. And although the bravery of this man should absolutely call your attention, it's the reactions, or lack thereof, that should also be calling your attention and at least raising a couple of eyebrows. Now, there are a few people online who are claiming that this was some sort of inside job because Kendrick Lamar secretly wanted to bring attention to what's happening in Sudan and Palestine, but the protester made it clear they had absolutely nothing to do with that. Kendrick Lamar nor Jay-Z and Roc Nation, who helped to organize that halftime show, had anything to do with it. And that fact has unfortunately been cemented after the NFL has issued a lifetime ban to the protester who waved that flag. But I'm like, this is Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z, right? We're going to hear something from them in defense of this protester, even if they disagree with his methods, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing, not a goddamn thing. Both of them have been completely silent. And I'm going to express to you the importance of how loud this silence is. Now, for many people, they consider Kendrick to be an activist, conscious type of rapper because of some of the music he's made in the past and his album like To Pimp a Butterfly. There were even articles done talking about decrypting the symbolism in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show, talking about the references to the struggles of the black community and what's seemed to be an overall general critique of America. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. If you were actually a truly conscious rapper, you don't get Super Bowl halftime performances.
Pause it right there.
Do you get...
Pause it right there. Nico said it.
Mm-hmm.
If you were that woke, there ain't no way in hell that you're perform at the Super Bowl. And I remember, like, I've read something like from like Nina Simone. Like, I forgot what song it was, but that song essentially got her banned from playing at certain places. So general rule of thumb, if they allow you, it's kind of like AOC wearing that stupid dress at the Met Gala several years ago is an attempt to fight the resistance. If the establishment is allowing you in these spaces, you're not a threat. Yep. So, and we're going to get into why Kendrick is not a threat in a minute, but Nico said it right here. You know, he good. So, which is funny because he said the revolution will be.
Yeah,
but this ain't it. What he doing wasn't it. And look, anyone who tries to dissect it, you know, like you can, if you want to put this, or that's on you. But to me, it ain't that deep, fam. Like this performance, from what and I'll be very fair, I didn't see much of it. I only saw maybe like a few seconds of it.
Well,
especially just preparing.
He's subtle with his messages usually. If you've looked at any of his other stuff, right, a lot of it's like LA culture or black exploitation. Like, I'll give the credit where he's due. Right. He has done some good work in the field, but you know, if you're completely blind on, you know, a lot of your brown brothers and sisters in the Middle East, you know, and only focusing on your struggle, there's some issues.
Right.
So, you know,
it just reminds me, and I said this on Twitter, like Beyonce, her first performance back in 2016. Now, granted, that was during Obama's term, but she dressed in Black Panther paraphernalia, you know, with the song, sure, I forgot the name of the song right now, but yeah, it's kind of similar, using the aesthetics of protests and resistance, but not necessarily talking about it or promoting it or fashioning your life around it in order to make change. But then again, as we know that Malcolm X has said, you know, do not rely on celebrities in order to bring the resistance. And, you know, so it's cool to use the symbolism. And again, a Black person using Black symbolism, you know, to create a message, but no action, or Kendrick in this case did not say any action.
Yeah, well,
he was actually pushing for that change.
He is talking about people like Drake doing that as well. You know, motherfuckers want to see Compton,
right?
But don't want to do nothing for Compton. You know, so I kind of get it. At the same time, like I know the fact that it's being pushed so heavily, like something's up. You know, but Anyway, we'll let Nico continue a bit.
Go back
like
a few
5
seconds.
seconds.
And then, yeah.
Lifted
Yeah,
by the
5
mainstream.
seconds.
Even though Kendrick Lamar just recently won a
Oh, I
string
tried.
of Grammys, just recently
That's all right.
don't get Super Bowl halftime. You guys in a
That's
little
fine.
secret. If you are actually a truly conscious rapper, you don't get Super Bowl halftime performances, nor do you get uplifted by the mainstream. Even though Kendrick Lamar just recently won a string of Grammys, people forget that Kendrick Lamar openly criticized the Grammys in 2014 after he felt like he was snubbed when Macklemore won. He and others even alluded to the fact that the Grammys are effectively racist in a lot of ways as far as how they go about choosing who does and who does not win, even in the category of hip hop. In fact, the very next year, he made the album To Pimp a Butterfly, which was clearly in response to him feeling like he and other black artists had been snubbed and were being snubbed at the Grammys. Now, I like to call To Pimp a Butterfly conscious music for mainstream white people who want to feel woke. Now, throughout that beef, Kendrick continued to remain silent. So how does Kendrick Lamar rage against the machine that he believes screwed over him and other black artists? He performs the album that he made to criticize the Grammys at the Grammys the very next year. And in one song, he says, "Fuck the police," which is actually a very powerful message included in that song, probably the most powerful message. And he makes sure to censor that part out as he's performing at the Grammys, which he had previously criticized for being racially apathetic. Now, Mr. Conscious has also been noticeably quiet on the issue of Palestine, which has become all the more clearer considering that this man has got a lifetime ban. This protester got a lifetime ban, and Kendrick Lamar has said absolutely nothing about it. Even stranger, Kendrick Lamar was given 5 Grammys for making a diss song about another man, which never happens. And the diss was about the artist Drake, who many of you are familiar with. However, what many of you might not have known is that that diss came shortly after Drake, half Jewish, signs an open letter calling for a ceasefire in Gaza after Kendrick remained silent. And after Kendrick basically disappeared for years and showed up out of nowhere only to mention Drake. And then he was given 5 Grammys and a halftime show at the Super Bowl in Lil Wayne City. I mean, come on, if you know, you know. I'm just saying to me, it seems like somebody has been rewarded for their complicity. And then there's Jay-Z, who has only partnered with the NFL in helping them select the halftime show because of his open criticisms of how they blackballed Colin Kaepernick. He literally says in a song, "I said no to the Super Bowl. You need me. I don't need you," referring to the NFL and referring to the fact that he refused to perform because of their treatment of Colin Kaepernick. Fast forward, he closes his deal with the NFL. This man gets arrested, detained, and then has a lifetime ban that Jay-Z could obviously prevent from happening because of his partnership with the NFL. And where's Jay-Z at? What's the point of the symbolism if your actions don't follow? What's the point of protesting if you're only going to protest when you feel like you've been wrong, but when a genocide is happening, you go silent? What's the point of having black faces in high places if they're going to suppress the voices who are speaking for the black faces who can't speak for themselves or don't have the platform to do so? With people like Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z, this is the type of representation that does more harm than good, because they had a chance to reward that man for being as brave as he was, but instead have been silent, let the NFL punish him, and they aren't even trying to give him a platform or use this opportunity to bring attention to the issues he's calling attention to, being the genocide in Gaza and a Sudan that's beriddled with war because of the actions of the United States and its allies. And it's dangerous because you have people defending the fact that Kendrick was silent, defending the fact that Jay-Z is silent, forgetting the fact that the reason Jay-Z has his position and the reason y'all supposedly like Kendrick is because of them bringing attention to issues that needed attention. So it's time that we stop this celebrity worship. Let's end it. And let's start celebrating these people like Nantambu, who are actually bringing attention to the issues that matter in this world. And I'm not talking about the type of attention that comes when the cameras are off and the lights are low and there's nothing to risk. I'm talking about the type of attention where there's everything to risk and everybody is watching. This is what we should be celebrating. And these are who these celebrities with platforms should be defending.
Thank you, Nico, for keeping it concise and saying a lot more. And guess what? We're going to go a little bit further than Nico did. So let's give more of the basics first. So don't like using mainstream media, but I had to in this case. So this is from the AP, where they report Super Bowl halftime performer detained after unfurling Sudanese Palestinian flag. At the time when I pulled this, they didn't have a name until within the last 48 hours. So they don't mention his name. But,
keep going.
Matt. Wait.
Yeah, I just went backwards one.
Yeah, the slide is not.
There you go.
So, a performer in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show was detained on the field and could face charges after unfurling a combination Sudanese-Palestinian flag with Sudan and Gaza ran on it. The NFL confirmed the person was part of the 400-member field cast. The New Orleans Police Department said in a statement that law enforcement is working to determine applicable charges in this incident. The individual will be banned for life from all NFL stadiums and events. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy sent an emailed statement. Did I put it twice? I guess. The performer stood in a car used as a prop for Lamar's performance and held up the flag. The NFL said the individual hid the item on his person and unveiled it late in the show, and that no one involved with the production was aware of the individual's intent. Rock Nation, the entertainment company which produced the show, so that's Jay-Z's label, said the act was neither planned nor part of the production and was never in any rehearsal. The show continued without interruption, and it did not seem as though the person was shown on the broadcast of Lamar's performance.
Because, of course.
So I wasn't going to talk about this at all. Actually, go back one.
Yeah.
But shout out to DJ Joe Nice, friend of the show, who posted this on Instagram. And normally I see it. And fortunately, I was able to get a screenshot of this before it got deleted from his IG stories. But I remember him talking about this last year. But he said, sharing this again. For those keeping score, 1, Kendrick Lamar is signed to Universal Music Group. 2, Audrey Graham, Drake, is signed to Universal Music Group. So they both work on the same label. So this beef, I argue that, Lamar put out against Drake, and all of that, in my mind, is manufactured. But that's just speculation on my part. I don't think I'm far off the mark, but that's what I think. Anyway, number 3. The CEO of Universal Music Group is Lucian Grange, a pro-Israel billionaire and Zionist supporter. 4. Lucian Grange is a defendant of who? Reef?
Diddy.
Sean
Combs.
Court case.
Yeah.
This just in. Kendrick versus Drake is a distraction.
Yes.
This bullshit takes attention away from Israel and their continued genocide of Palestinians in Rafah. It also turns down the heat on Sean Combs. If you think a fake rap beef is quote unquote for the culture, you might need to consider other activities. And Reef, to your credit, you reported on this a few months ago.
Yes, I did.
So we did this segment, which, oddly enough, was one of our top segments of last year.
Yep.
Given the content. But we mentioned Lucian Grange in this story in terms of Diddy and the Zionist circle that he's a part of. So if you want to watch the whole thing, you can find it on our playlist. We're going to do a little flashback just to remind you of this guy. So, wow, almost wearing exactly the same thing, if not the same thing.
Yeah.
Look at but we went into this. This is from Alex Rubinstein's article that he wrote up about Diddy. So we're going to watch this just to remind you all of Lucius Grange.
Oh, that beautiful beam footage.
Mr. Combs had hundreds of cameras in his homes in LA, New York City, and Miami. Mr. Combs required the sex workers and underage girls to sign NDAs prior to entering his parties and prior to being drugged and sex trafficked at these parties, the lawsuit adds. Jones believes that Mr. Combs has recordings of defendants, namely Grange and Habkamarian, as well as other celebrities, music-level executives, politicians, and athletes. That's where this shit is going to come into play, Colin.
So he's basically the Black Epstein.
Yes. Yep. So, which is why he left. He got on a plane and like, I'm out of here.
He fucking got out of there.
I'm gone.
Like, we say fuck them kids. He was like, fuck my kids. I'm out.
I'm out. Fucking Israel. You got a home? I can stay there.
He's like, deuces. I don't care about y'all either. I'm out.
Grange has supported pro-Israel initiatives such as a fund for Israeli Olympic athletes. As noted previously by Palestine Declassified, and we're going to get to these athletes in a bit, Grange was photographed by glitzy friends of the IDF Gala in 2016, presumably after making hefty donations to the pro-occupation NGO. According to UK government documents, Grange's wife, Carolyn Grange, also funds several Zionist organizations.
Of course.
Lucian Grange, possible vampire, also happens to be a close friend of Haim Saban.
Go,
yay!
go,
goddamn right.
Yes.
The white Power Rangers in this case. A Democratic Party. Yep. Democratic Party power player and mega donor to Zionist causes like the Friends of the IDF. Saban is an independent, non-executive director at Universal Music Group, and last month held a fundraiser for President Joseph Biden. Yay!
So if you're wondering why Kendrick has not said shit about Palestine, that's probably why.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is owned by the Zionist lobby. So, and I imagine, and I said this on Twitter too, that he got those Emmy, and like I said this to you, like because Beyonce was at the Grammys. Beyonce don't go to any of these award shows anymore in the same way she used to. Like the only reason why she would go now, either to perform or to get an award, more than likely.
Yeah.
So the fact that she was there, and again, I didn't watch the Grammys, but I knew she was there. I'm like, okay, she's gonna win for Cowboy Carter. So that's the only reason why she was there. Then I heard later that Kendrick also won. I didn't know he won 5, but I knew he won at least a Grammy for None Like Us. So it seems to me that Kendrick, because he was a good little boy in doing what his overlords asked him to do, keep your mouth shut. We'll make it up to you by giving you a Grammy because you fell away several years ago. And you're going to go on tour later on this year with SZA. So you're going to make us more bank, and you're going to make some bank. So keep your mouth shut.
Seem like everybody
that's what I
clout
suspected.
chasing.
So that's what I expected is happening with Kendrick, because like they all know all this bullshit about the Israeli lobby and all of that. But like, so I'm sorry. Kendrick is not as woke, as Nico said, is not as woke or as conscious as he claims to be, because he's part of that machine. He's not independent. And that's the thing that Kendrick is saying. He claims to be an independent artist. But as we said, and as Nico said, he's just part of the machine. He only cares about the money. So in order to keep his standing, he has to
another one
and keep on moving. So any thoughts on that before I go on?
Sounds about right. You know? But...
All right. So Nico, again, shout out to him. He said this before he made that hotspot clip.
Yeah.
So he tweeted, of course, he was dragged off. So this was Nintendo. He was dragged off by security, and Kendrick said nothing. Can't keep rapping about the man, quote unquote, at the Grammys and Super Bowl halftime shows if you actually had any intention on using your platform to stand up to the man, quote unquote. So Then he continues, nope. Wondering when people are going to connect the dots that Kendrick winning an absurd amount of Grammys for making a song about another man and the Super Bowl halftime performance after basically disappearing for years was a reward for the activist rapper, quote unquote, staying silent on Palestine. So basically what I just said. Here's some tweets from people who are kind of seeing for the bullshit. At Shay Sade, I guess, said Black Americans are too impressed by empty symbolism.
If it makes you feel any better, so are white Americans. But, you know.
Yeah,
I digress.
American Ghetto tweeted, Black politics is incredibly stunted, and how people discuss the politics in art is often a mirror to that. Black mainstream musicians constantly flirt with the idea that they're revolutionaries, but never challenge capitalism, imperialism, and material exploitation, yet people eat it up. At Deem the Dream tweeted, only reason Negroes even perform at the Super Bowl is because JB usurped the police brutality protests to enrich himself. So the discourse is dumb. The game, the league, the celebrations are all inherently reactionary.
Correct.
No amount of symbolism deconstruction can change this.
Correct.
And he goes on, whole shit is mainstream rap version of twerking in front of the police. So this was in response to that at Diabolical Sun. People will continue to try because it allows them to seek comfort in their complicity. If you frame your favorite celebrity's performance as some profound protest for the culture, then you're making a significant impact by supporting.
Yes.
So I wanted to play this clip. This is from
Al Jazeera.
The Tambu. It's Al Jazeera. They popped us, so I'm not going to do it. You can find the whole thing
also
online.
Drop site news, which don't follow them either. In fact, block them normally.
Right.
You know.
Right. But I just pulled this tweet because I wasn't going to play the video.
Yeah.
But Al Jazeera anchor, in response to your protest, the NFA says you'll now be banned for life. Would you still have done it if you knew the risk? Super Bowl protester Zul Aman Natambu, the risk of a ban? I was afraid I'd get sniped by a Secret Service bullet. I can watch a football game on television if I choose to, sir.
Well, yes. I wanted to put people with that perspective. They're like snipers at a football game. Well, you know, yes. Yeah, they have those. Like, I mean, pretty apparent that that's there. But anyway, you were saying?
No, that's it. I mean, it's
yeah.
Well, it's the idea of like he thought he was going to get shot. Like he got banned. So what?
Yeah.
You'll save money and he can watch it on TV. So I think he had a great response. I watched part of it and he did say at the beginning of it, like it was due to his faith in Islam that led him to compel to do this.
Yeah,
because
I think
he felt like you had to be a voice essentially for the voiceless. And when you have a platform like that, you had to use it. So this guy, as I titled it, understood the assignment. Like he used that platform that Kendrick should have done in order to address the issues in Gaza. And he did extra in mentioning Sudan as well. Like Black and brown people in the global South. That was something that Kendrick, again, should have had the balls to do, but couldn't and didn't because it would upset his bosses.
Yeah. Which I brought this. This is from Chris.
You brought this. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the horror being banned for life from seeing a spectacle meant to distract us from the realities of our slave labor. How is the poor guy going to survive? Essentially, a lot of snark in there. I do have the quote from the stuff about his faith, if you want that. I don't know if you have it in later or not. But
no, I don't.
Hold on. Let me pull it. 2, 1. The Superbowl protester Zul Kamin Natambu, who waved the Sudan Palestinian flag during the halftime show, spoke about how he felt he had to act. If you see a wrongdoing, you must stop it with your hands. If you can't stop it with your hands, stop it with your tongue. If you can't stop it with your tongue, stop it with your heart. And we know that's the weakest of faith. I had an opportunity on a grand scale to bring awareness and speak out against the wrong of my Muslim brothers and sisters, because we know if one part of the body is hurting, all of the body is hurting. This ummah is one body. So I didn't want to face my creator with a sign of weak faith when I knew I had an opportunity to show I didn't have weak faith. A lot of people didn't know what's going on in Gaza. A lot of people didn't know what's going on in Sudan, and they feel like they're not being represented properly. So I had the opportunity to represent them on a global scale. I had to take that opportunity, just even to get the prayers of the people. It was worth it, just even to get the prayers of the Palestinians and the Sudanese. So, yeah.
Which goes into my last slide from Huey P. Newton.
Huey P.
Who said, the task is to transform society. Only the people can do that. Not heroes, not celebrities, not stars.
And not politicians, I'll also add. You know?
Right.
So,
who are, I would argue, could be considered all of those.
Yeah.
Heroes, celebrities, and stars.
Yes,
so,
they've been turned into that.
So again,
speaking of politicians, we should go back and do a story on the original Huey P. Right, with his share the wealth clubs and all that stuff would be a good segment.
We can do that.
But
we can do that.
Yeah,
do some research on that. But any thoughts? Last thoughts? I know you didn't particularly want to do this story, and I didn't want to either.
I just don't like doing that.
I just felt
it's a distraction story, you know. But like that's me.
No, it's a distraction, but in a way, I have to view this in a positive way because this is what we're asking our audience to do. It's the idea of like using whatever platform you have in order to uplift the voices of the voiceless. And this guy, apparently, just doing a little research on him, he's a resident of New Orleans. He's, I guess, an artist. I'm not sure what kind. But I think he has a nonprofit that he also does that I believe kind of caters to areas in the global south. So he is connected in a way of knowing the struggle and wanting to do something about it. So, so he was a part of the production crew. So he took it upon himself to be an advocate for the people of Gaza and Sudan. So, which I think, again, number one, and we say this, like, what are you willing to lose? Now, he said he thought he was going to lose his life. He basically ended up getting like, oh, you can't go to NFL games anymore. Okay.
He was like, okay.
So, right. So there ain't no thing. But I did want to mention him in light of everything because everyone is trying to dissect this thing with Kendrick and just like, oh, this thing has so much symbolism. This show, this, like, it was funny. I think I said this to you earlier. Like, I was watching, another YouTuber who, and I guess a lot of people from NOLA hated the performance.
Well, there's a reason for that. And it's not just because of,
there is a reason for that.
Do you know the thing with Lil Wayne in this? Because he's not like, like Drake fucked his girl while he was in prison, pretty much. Then Drake ended up in Apology tattooing Drake's name on his face. Drake's also said, like, I might be wrong. Lil Wayne also, I think, defended Diddy or something like that. I don't know, man. It's all nonsense anyway. Like, and I'm a NOLA boy, bro. Like, Lil Wayne's been at it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But you know who else been at it for a minute? Hey, how about Mr. Teddy Payne over here? Mr. Tallahassee P. You know what I'm saying? Like, Where he at? Just saying. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I just find it funny at this point, you know, and like there's definitely some symbolism, and it's important to call out, you know, like PDF files and whatnot.
But it's not like
any and all.
But we've seen this before.
Yes.
Right. We've seen this before. It's
Blur,
like
Oasis,
the symbolism is there, but it's not that.
Tupac,
it's, as I said, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
It's not that deep. And what's the point? And as Nico said, what's the point of symbolism if there's no action behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Like people are going to forget about this thing within the next few weeks or months.
Yeah.
You know? And as I said, well, I'll say that depending because as I said, Kendrick is going on tour. I'm not sure if he's going to utilize any of this. So we might be seeing this a little bit more depending on how he works his tour. But it's not that deep, fam. At least not to me. It's just a way to kind of placate. I think it's just a way to piss off the conservatives and try and give black people like something like, yeah, well, I feel seen, and it's Black History Month, and all this kind of stuff. But, you know,
the revolution will not be televised.
But again, there's no bite behind it. So, and again, given that it's Jay-Z who produced this thing,
it's even more questionable.
Like, from the very and I remember this is why in a lot of ways I'm not watching NFL now, because Jay-Z's like, I'm not performing in the NFL again because of what you did to Kaepernick. But just like Obama sold out for money, that now he produced it. He's produced these things since what, 2018, 2019.
Don't look at Jay-Z and, you know, Beyonce's connection to that guy or their connections to other, you know, children exploitative rings.
People now, because her pre-sale tickets are going on sale for a tour, and people are like trying to figure out if they're going to pay their rent or their mortgage in order to go. I'm like,
what dummies?
Not me. Not me. I am not supporting any of these motherfuckers, you know? Like, would I ever go to Beyonce? Maybe, because it's Beyonce, but I'm not going to go broke in order to try and go to a country
I can just watch it on YouTube. It's fun, like, whatever.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. I could watch it in the comfort of my own home at my own time.
So no thank
you.
Fuck them.
Like,
you know. But anyway, speaking of YouTube, I gotta go back to find one of those. Hold on. Speaking of YouTube, keep going. Like, it's probably why we're demonetized talking about these kinds of stories. So, you know, scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. You know, or go in the description below and give us a few dollary dues, help keep the lights on here. But can't do that. Like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Let us know what they think, you know. But leave a comment. What do you think of this whole thing? What's your take on the Drake Super Bowl distraction nonsense? But otherwise, thanks for watching. Gabriel, we did it.
Yeah. Let's go to chats before we go. There was a few. Jacqueline in the chat, if you rap the truth, you don't get to headline at the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Yeah. Safe people get to go. So,
which I think he was at one point he was probably together, you know, especially in his earlier albums.
Probably.
But eventually they get to everybody.
They got Ty's mind right. Yeah.
So
Vicky Adams televised. So speaking of Vicky Adams, televised for money. Essentially, emojis. Sean in chat, oddly enough, I think this is for a draft. They need to make the disenfranchised to feel enfranchised.
Yes. These musical beefs are always manufactured to sell more records. I remember the massive rivalry between Oasis and Blur in the 90s, and that's Jacqueline, Jack H. And keep in mind, these kind of like, what is it, Tupac's number, talking about Diddy and Biggie, you know, back in the day, calling them out. Like, ain't nobody talking about that. That wouldn't be done at the Super Bowl. Half of Tupac's stuff ain't never make it to no Super Bowl, you know?
No.
like that's like
Don't think he would have
NWA.
gone anyway if he wasn't invited.
Right.
So
like Public Enemy ain't never making it to, you know, like none of that. KRS-One definitely not making it.
Well, you know what? They might now. I believe like Chuck D has sold out, so I think they might now, but not
now.
then.
It's like Rage. Rage could go up there and do it now. You know, they got sold out too. All of them get sold out eventually.
Right.
You know, R.A. the Rugged Man still kicking around. You know, there's Black Thought, I think, still doing some stuff. I don't know how sold out Toby and Wigway is yet. You know, there's a few out there, but like Macklemore, of course. But I'm not banking on celebrities to like hook us up.
Speaking of Macklemore, Jacqueline in the chat said that Macklemore will never get a repeat win at the Grammys, even if he writes a brilliant album. No, they want fucking thrift store guy back. Nice, polite white rapper. That's what they want. You know, so. Who's singing about thrift shop versus
yes, yeah,
versus stuff in Gaza. So,
which I had liked Macklemore before they got famous, so it was frustrating, you know.
Yeah, Abiding 71, Lamar a Zionist. I don't think he's a Zionist, but he's complicit.
Yeah,
in the movie,
for sure.
I would argue at best. Like, so I want to give him a little bit of credit. But like, but it's like, take a stand, sir. Like, at minimum, as Nico said, speak up for this activist, this brave man who did what you should have done.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But anyway, coming up this week,
I believe.
We've got again Monday through Thursdays, AM Wake Up in the mornings on our Twitter account. You know, as Steve likes to say, on WeChat. Thanks to Get Any News. Appreciate that. Thanks, Scuba Steve. Independent Review, of course, in the morning that Friday. Wednesday nights, Ina News, as always. No Himbo streams Thursday nights. Angel at the afternoon Friday. Indy's running the Last Jesse show for people who missed it that Friday. Also Valentine's Day, boys, get those flowers ready. You know, don't let those girls go giftless, bro. They deserve that shit. Anyway,
or you can wait till next week when everything is cheaper again.
Yeah.
So
Saturday, go check out Oz over on Beauty and the Boomer. Him and Shanda been doing it up. Sundays, Pro Wrestling Talk. How do we miss that? And Boats stacked on Sundays, so go check that out. Maple Files Tuesdays. Otherwise, back to Ina News. Same bad channel, same bad time. Anything else? I think that's it. As always, check out our Twitter for updates on that and our Substack. So links in the description below. You can go to that indienewsnetwork, find that. I think it just poked its head. It's a little chat there for people who want to find our links. Please go do that and stay up to date. You know, they don't like to update you when we go live, so find other ways to get updates. But anyway, anything else? I think that's it.
That's it.
Cool. Well, as always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Oh, wait, no, I have a thing. I have an outro that we could do. Let's do that.
What?
All people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Some people deserve to die. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. At least one of your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Anyway, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye. Have a great time.